The action takes place in Sichuan, on a battlefield strewn with bodies. The demon overlord of pleasant murder, the second disciple of the heavenly demon, and Yun So stand opposite each other. The demon overlord addresses Yun Seo, calling him a degenerate. The three squads of the bloody heavens, the four elders of the myriad demon palace. Even Seo Gun, the steel blood demon overlord, fell in battle with Yun Seo. The second disciple of the heavenly demon considers him a true monster. Yun Seo asks the second student what's wrong with him, as if he saw a ghost. Yun Seo is the fifth disciple of the heavenly demon sect's leader. At a time when the war between the Buddhist and demonic sects was in full swing, there lived a legendary elusive thief whose dexterous hands appropriated all the valuables of the Central Plains. One day, the tomb of this great thief who cast no shadow was found in Sichuan. Many Buddhist sects and clans, despite the fierce war with demonic sects, sent their best warriors to Sichuan to seize the thief's treasures. Upon learning of this, the heavenly demon decided to send his second disciple to Sichuan. At that time, the second disciple did not arouse much hostility among the Buddhist sects, but he was to learn that he had been betrayed by his brother adept Yun So. On the battlefield, the second disciple was surprised. Even after being poisoned by the 7-component poison of the Tan clan, Yun So still fought with such heroism. The second disciple of the heavenly demon told the boy that it was time to clip his wings. After all, it was said that Yun Seo had surpassed their sect's master in skill. Yun Seo countered that he had no ambition to lead a cult and was not interested in it at all. The second disciple replied that he knew very well how the heavenly demon praised the skills of a junior disciple. And for someone who dreamed of leading a sect, Yun Seo was surprisingly ill-informed. Yun Seo advised the second student to work on his wounded pride if he was not going to let it go so easily. The demon lord realized that Yun Seo was provoking him and said that it was foolish to anger a strong enemy when one's own strength was low. He attacked. Yun Seo realized that his opponent knew about his exhaustion. The demon overlord shouted at Yun Seo that at his last breath he was no longer as vigorous as before. Yun So gathered the rest of his strength, trying to hold his defense, but had already missed several blows from his opponent. The poison spread throughout Yun Seo's entire body, and his chi energy was only enough for one blow. The second student advised him to give up, but the boy replied that although he was exhausted from the battle, he was still able to finish him off. The demon overlord stated that there was no need to fight. Yun Seo asked if he was afraid. The demon overlord laughed loudly and asked if Yun So could sense the light energy of these creatures. He said that if Yun Seo didn't want to humiliate herself by being captured by these degenerates, it would be better to let herself be killed. As a brother adept, the demon overlord promised Yun Seo a quick and merciful death. Yun Seo burst out laughing, asking if he really thought that would work. He knew how bad Yun Seo's temper was. Yun Seo threatened to drag the demon overlord to the next world with him. The demon overlord replied that Yun Seo was in no position to bluff. Suddenly, Yun Seo's heart glowed with blue flames. The second disciple of the heavenly demon could not understand what was happening. Yun Seo asked him why he was surprised, since everyone studies at least one dark art in their life. Yun Seo used the ultimate technique of the dark arts, the demonic art of explosive force. The demon overlord reminded that this technique would result in a painful death for the one who uses it. Yun Seo replied that it didn't matter whether he died that way or not. The main thing was to drag the demon overlord with him. The second disciple of the heavenly demon realized that Yun Seo was still dangerous and he needed to escape immediately. But Yun Seo was determined to take it. The demon overlord had no choice but to use his protective chi. He understood that in terms of the power of the dark arts, Yun Seo was now comparable to all 9 overlords of the heavenly demon sect. Yun Seo delivered the final crushing blows. The demon overlord begged for mercy, but the boy saw only his target. The people approaching the battlefield noticed a strange energy. they realized that the demons were clashing with each other. Yun Seo destroyed the second disciple of the heavenly demon, but he himself, having exhausted his strength, began to choke on blood. The people who came running initially felt two sources of energy, but now both have died out. As they got closer, they saw Yun Seo, recognized him, and called him the Hidden Dragon. They tried to see who was dead next to them, but the body was too mutilated. However, the clothes and ring on the dead man's finger indicated that he was the suzerain demon of intoxicating murder from the heavenly demon sect. It became clear that an internal conflict had broken out within the sect. One of those present informed the abbot that Yun Seo was still alive. Yun Seo hasn't had a day in his life where he's done what he wanted, not since his parents sent him to the cult. The poor parents sold the boy to a demonic sect for a handful of coins. He spent the next 10 years in the invisible demon's cave, where Yun Seo had to kill to survive in this hell. Another 10 years. War between clans, sectarian discord, betrayal. Yun Seo survived as best he could, but everything he truly desired slipped from his grasp. He did not live a single minute for himself, and his life was cut short by the betrayal of an adept of the same sect. As Yun Seo was dying, he realized that his life had been complete crap. The abbot asked him if he had any last words. The abbot began the ritual of reincarnation for the next life, so that Yun Seo could attain nirvana. The boy said that if he were to be reborn, he would like to live his life the way he wanted. Yun Seo closed his eyes, bidding farewell to life. Suddenly, he heard voices. Someone was yelling that the little brat was whining again and told him to get up. The screamers started hitting Yun Seo, ordering him to open his eyes. The guy opened them and was speechless from what he saw. In front of him stood the bastard who had taken him into the sect and thrown him into the invisible demon cave. Yun Seo didn't understand anything. After all, he came back later and tore off his arms and legs. And why he was called Goldfinch was also unclear. Enraged by this treatment, Yun Seo wanted to use the technique to destroy the scoundrel. But he put his sword to his neck, and in the reflection Yun Seo saw that he looked like a young boy. As the bastard threatened him with a sword, the boy couldn't believe that he looked like this as a child. The man kicked the boy and told him to look him in the eyes when he was spoken to. He continued to kick Yun Seo, but the boy didn't understand why it hurt so much because he was dead. Suddenly the bastard was stopped by his partner, who said that there was no point in spoiling the goods. He wouldn't survive in the invisible demon's cave anyway. And then Yun Seo realized that this was indeed the same bastard who abandoned him in the cave 20 years ago, and that he is in the very house from where he was taken to the demonic sect. Yun Seo couldn't believe he had returned to the past. He didn't feel as young as he had been at that moment. The bandits tied up the boy and sat down to eat. One of them kept hurrying the others, as if afraid that the deal would fall through. Meanwhile, Yun Seo thought that the abbot's prayer to Buddha had worked, and that returning to the past was indeed possible. One of the bandits mentioned that the elder of the Murim Alliance was nearby. Perhaps he was hunting them, and they needed to leave quickly and cover their tracks. His partner countered that all these old men did was sit around, unable to pursue anyone. The third supported this, adding that the elders had most likely sent their subordinates away, while they themselves sat in the palace, discussing the fate of the people. They then talked about how Heavenly River Sword became an elder at 40 years old, even though he did not belong to any of the 5 great families or the 9 Buddhist sects. Suddenly, the leader of the bandits walked up to Yun Seo, grabbed him, and told the others to shut up and quickly go to the demon cultists. The boy knew he couldn't let himself be dragged there. Otherwise, he would have to endure the hell of the invisible demon's cave again. The Cave of the Invisible Demon is a training camp for a demonic cult where future followers are trained. The children in the cave are constantly faced with the real threat of death. They have to do everything possible to survive. The only way to survive there is to pay a high price. Even if you study hard and become stronger, you will still have to fight. Yun Seo knew that even though he had gotten out alive in his past life, there was no guarantee that he would be able to do so again. And even if he miraculously survives, he will change so much that life will become unbearable, and it will take 10 years to recover. Yun Seo decided that he never wanted to go through that again and was willing to do anything to avoid it. Meanwhile, the robber, who was carrying the boy on his back, told the others that he would be in the cart with this little bastard and ordered them to cover their tracks. Suddenly, people from the Mansion clan burst into the room, shouting that the bandits had finally been caught. The bandits didn't expect this, but Yun so remembered that in his past life, everything was exactly the same. One of the bandits said that these were the same chicks they had met a couple of days ago. They advised the clan to return to their mother while they had the chance. The girl from the clan screamed that they would pay with their lives for the insult. The robbers began to mock, asking if this was their gratitude for being spared. Then they shouted that if the clan was so eager to get to the next world, they would gladly help and rush to attack. The battle was fierce. The bandits spared no one, reveling in cruelty. The man who carried Yun Seo on his shoulder ordered not to kill the girls in order to take them with him. Yun Seo realized that his only chance to change everything was now. While the clan's people held the line, the boy decided to act quickly and unexpectedly. Yun Seo suddenly hit the man in the face with his knee. The man, who was not expecting it, did not have time to react. While the robber was coming to his senses, the boy grabbed a vase standing nearby and hit him on the nose. Then Yun Seo jumped out the window and ran away as fast as he could. He understood that he would not run far. His young body had neither the endurance nor the strength of martial arts. The robber chased him, shouting that he would kill the boy as soon as he caught him. Yun Seo looked for cover, but the robber was already very close. Suddenly, the robber grabbed Yun Seo by the leg and dragged him along the ground towards him. Yun Seo resisted with all his might, but was powerless. The robber put a knife to his neck, saying that now he would pay for escaping. He dragged the boy back into the house and warned him that if he tried to escape again, he didn't care that the boy was a commodity. His partner calmed him down, reminding him that it was time to leave. The leader ordered that the little bastard be tied up tightly so that he wouldn't escape again. After the battle and the chase after the boy, the bandits all began to drink wine from the jug that Yun Seo had touched. Suddenly, everyone started coughing up blood. The wine was poisoned. The leader shouted for everyone to immediately meditate, expelling the poison from their bodies. Yun Seo said that poison is the best way for the weak to defeat the strong. The bandits realized that this was the boy's doing. Yun Seo said that this time he would let them die. As he ran away, he remembered his means of survival in the invisible demon's cave. He studied poisonous substances and plants. Naturally, Yun Seo was not a skilled poisoner like the members of the Tang clan or the Poison Valley. But he knew more about poisons than an ordinary doctor or herbalist, so he was able to quickly get his bearings. Yun Seo told the bandits that since they were meeting for the second time, he would send them to hell in comfort. The boy destroyed all the robbers and did not spare a single one, because they had once destroyed his life. Yun Seo finally exhaled and was glad that now he was saved and he wouldn't have to go to that damn cave. However, his joy was quickly replaced by confusion. Now the boy did not understand what to do next and where to go. And then Yun Seo remembered the overlord demon of rapturous murder, who called him a traitor. The boy always repays any evil tenfold. Yun Seo knew that he had to go to the heavenly demon sect and take revenge on them all. On the other hand, he really didn't want to ever set foot on the land of that sect again. But the boy knew for sure that he definitely wanted to be a warrior in this life. And if he did not become strong, then anyone could hurt him. The paths of a hermit or a wandering mercenary did not appeal to Yun Seo, because they are poor and have no influence, and do not recognize clans and sects. There is also no point in becoming the head of the Murima Warrior Union or the leader of the Yun Seo sect. There are too many responsibilities there. The boy wanted strength, power, and money. But he didn't yet know what he should become, so that in his old age he could still enjoy the fruits of his wealth and fame. Yun Seo paused and wondered if such a thing could even happen. And then it seemed to dawn on him. He remembered the conversation of the robbers about old men who were only busy sitting on their asses. Yun Seo remembered that the elders of the Union that he had encountered in his past life were all dishonest. They divided power over the Murim between themselves, depending on their financial and clan interests. and despite many privileges, they could not be met in battle. The boy had memories of his battles, in which his allies asked if anyone had seen the elders and if they were of any use. The other disciples of the heavenly demon sect made fun of the elders and looked down on them, but Yun Seo compared their lifestyle to his own, and envy welled up within him. For someone like Yun Seo, who was not born into one of the 5 great clans, nor into any of the great 9 sects, it would be very difficult to become an elder. But the boy decided that knowledge and experience from his past life would help him. This was already bringing him closer to victory. But at the moment, he is just a helpless boy, and he needs to find a safe place for himself. A place where Yun Seo can train and build up her strength, as well as plan her future. Suddenly, one of the tied-up girls started shouting at the boy to help them get out. The girl asked for help in bringing the young lady home. Yun Seo approached the girls to untie them, and then he noticed a pendant on one of them. The boy remembered that they were from the Manjong clan, but he had never heard of such a thing before. Suddenly, Yun Seo realized that if one of these girls was the young heiress, then this was his only means of getting ahead in life. The boy didn't know what would happen next. He wasn't sure about this clan, but when they got closer to their house, he realized that the clan was quite wealthy. Yun Seo was invited into the room of the clan's patriarch, who asked the boy if those bandits were from a demonic sect. Yun Seo confirmed this information. The patriarch said that he believed him, but it still required proof. The boy said he had no more information than what he had heard from the robbers. He also said that their bodies were still lying in the house, and if the patriarch sends people there, they will study and find evidence. The patriarch agreed and promised to send a brigade of soldiers there. Their conversation was interrupted by the young lady, who began to shout that she would also go with the warriors to that house. The patriarch became angry and told her that more than a dozen young warriors were defeated by some freaks from the demonic clan, and she had to be saved by a child. After this, the patriarch turned to the boy and told him that while he was dealing with all this, he needed to learn a lesson from what had happened. Then the patriarch asked Yun Seo if he had a family and a home. The boy replied that he was an orphan and his parents had abandoned him. Then the patriarch told the boy that he was young, but intelligent and polite beyond his years, and he ordered the advisor Wang to provide Yun Seo with shelter and everything he needed. He also asked the advisor to take Yun Seo under his wing and teach him the craft. The advisor promised to do everything. The advisor brought the boy to his new home and told him that he would allow him to rest for today. The boy thanked the advisor sincerely. Now that Yun Seo has everything he needs, he decides to begin his journey to becoming an elder of the Murima Warrior Union. The boy realized that for a commoner to do this, he would need feats and fame among the people. And in order for him to gain all this, he also needs to achieve achievements in martial arts. In his past life, Yun Seo was a disciple of a heavenly demon and was known as the strongest among the mortal Murima. And if he manages to regain his former greatness, then the Murim themselves will invite him to become an elder. The boy finally relaxed and decided to see what was going on with his chi energy. And then suddenly, Yun Seo remembered that he had been successfully cultivating demonic chi throughout his entire past life. 2 days have passed since Yun Seo was accepted as a guest into the Manjang clan. The boy began working as an assistant to Advisor Wang. The advisor kept an eye on the boy all the time, telling him not to slack off and to do everything as he taught him. The advisor always reminded Yun Seo that the Lord had ordered him to take him under his wing. But if he did a sloppy job, the advisor would not tolerate him for long. The advisor decided to go to the estate and ordered the boy to finish everything as it should be and come too. But Yun Seo stopped him and asked. The boy asked him what salary he was entitled to for his hard work. Such a question simply left the advisor stunned. And suddenly the advisor began to laugh loudly and told the boy that he was quite a wit. In his thoughts, he wondered if the boy really thought that he needed to be paid. The advisor replied to Yun Seo that he had not applied for a job properly, but was already asking for a salary. He also added that if the boy works hard, the advisor will pay him from his own pocket and there is no need to worry about that. Yun Seo wasn't too upset since he didn't plan to devote his entire life to this job anyway. And he just needs shelter and safety. But what worried Yun So was that he only knew how to create dark chi energy within himself. He understood that a person with demonic energy would never be accepted into the Murima Warriors Union, much less become an elder. Therefore, Yun So decided to study the technique of creating light energy chi, which is known to Buddhist sects. And he needed his chi energy to be no weaker than the one he cultivated using the heavenly demon technique. This way, Yun Seo will be able to use all the sword and footwork techniques he knows. But one thing worried him. Do Buddhists have such a strong technique for increasing the energy potential of chi? Suddenly, Yun Seo remembered a person he had heard about in his past life. There are 10 supreme masters of Buddhism. They are also called the 10 heavenly emperors. One of the emperors was known for being able to defeat any demonic sect master with his bare hands. His name was Fist King. His chi potential cultivation technique was so great that even the heavenly demon acknowledged it. In terms of strength, this technique was comparable to the heavenly demon energy creation technique. Yun Seo realized that only the Fist King's white lightning body art technique could replace the power of his demonic chi cultivation practices. Then the boy decided that he had no other choice, and he needed to become a student of the Fist King in order to learn this technique. There was only one thing the boy didn't know. Where could he look for the Fist King at this time? Yun Seo's only clue is that the Fist King will appear in Sichuan in 5 years. And the boy decided that until that time he needed to work on himself in everything he could, except for the technique of the art of the body of white lightning. 2 years have passed since Yun Seo joined the clan. For 2 years, he has been increasing his chi with the basic technique of the 3 foundations. But the effectiveness of this technique is negligible. The boy's chi energy is the size of a grain of rice. Until Yun Seo gained knowledge of the white lightning body art technique, he decided that he should focus on his physical strength. Young, so tried to eat more to gain weight, but then his students came up to him and began to tease him that the spirit of gluttony had entered him. One of the boys ordered the boy to stop eating and come out into the yard with them immediately. Yun So replied that he didn't want to. This angered the boy, and he reminded the boy that he was the head servant, and when he ordered to go, the boy had to go. Yun Seo replied that he would talk when he was done. Then the boy told Yun Seo that he understood that because of the patronage of Mrs. He and the advisor, he had become conceited. He stuck his fingers in the boy's food and said that if he didn't want to be beaten right there, he'd better go with them. Yun Seo thought that they probably hadn't touched him until now, thinking that he was being protected by Mrs. He and the advisor. And the fact that Yun Seo had failed to advance in his career for 2 years seemed to many to be a sign that he was worthless. Yun So understood that they were jealous because the boy had a large salary and a separate house on the estate. Yun So went outside with them anyway. One of the guys said that they would sort things out there. The boy asked what they wanted from him. One of the students began to approach Yun So and say that he would have taught this fatherless man some sense long ago. He ordered the boy to kneel before them, and before he could finish speaking, Yun Seo struck him straight in the stomach. The boy clearly didn't expect that from the boy. Yun Seo continued and delivered another punch right to the jaw. The people around him were shocked. Yun Seo said that this was their retribution for his precious lunch hours, and he would take it in full. Although Yun Seo's speech was very confident, there is still one small but. For a child with such a tiny amount of chi, facing a crowd of adults is no joke. However, the boy pulled himself together and began to overcome each of those present in turn. There were 3 left to defeat, one of whom was studying martial arts, and Yun So had very little chi energy left. Then the boy decided not to waste time and deal with their leader. He called the chief servant and asked him if he would hide behind their backs any longer. The chief servant became very angry and said that he would not allow this little brat to show off anymore. He barely touched Yun So, but his nose was already bleeding. If the boy took another direct hit, he would be in trouble. However, Yun Seo knew that even though the chief servant had learned martial arts, he was still very inexperienced. And then the boy gathered all his last chi energy and used the technique of a third-rate blockhead. The chief servant was defeated, and Yun So began to leave, asking those around him if they had any complaints as well. But the others only asked the boy for forgiveness. Yunseo returned home. He spent a lot of chi energy, and he knew that if the last two decided to attack him, it would already be a serious test. Yunseo knew that his small chi potential was his biggest problem. He began to think about how to get the elixir. Suddenly his thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Yunseo opened it and was very surprised by such guests. He came to him with her lady-in-waiting Hua. The lady said that Yunseo was said to be serving Advisor Wang well. Yunseo replied that there was nothing special about his job. He just moved papers from one place to another. The dialogue was somewhat tense, and the boy asked what he owed to the lady's visit. Then the lady replied that she would not beat around the bush and offered Yunseo to serve her. She explained that she had unwittingly witnessed his fight with the servants, and that it had left her very impressed. Yunseo got angry because he didn't want to attract attention, so he dealt with them quietly. He answered the lady that he simply knew a couple of simple techniques, and that she did not need someone like him at all. Mrs. E said that she wanted to create a troop of people loyal to her, a strong troop of warriors. She would make her brothers and sisters respect her authority. She then continued that Yunseo still owed her the fact that he was in this place, and suggested that he return the favor with kindness. Yunseo found himself in a desperate situation and agreed. The lady promised him that he would not regret his decision. She also told Yunseo that if she wins the fight for the inheritance and becomes the head of the clan, then Yunseo can ask her for whatever she wants. Yunseo thanked the lady and they left. But the lady warned him not to tell anyone about this, especially not to Advisor Wang. The next day, Yunseo went to see the advisor as usual. Wang was filling out some paperwork and asked the guy what he wanted to talk to him about. Yunseo replied that he wanted to inform him that he intended to participate in the battle for the position of clan head. Then the advisor asked why he came to him with this. After all, Advisor Wang always maintains neutrality. Yunseo smiled and explained that he had been working as his assistant for 2 years, and during that time, it had not been difficult for him to guess that the advisor was betting on the young master. These words confused Wang a little, but he asked if Yunseo was really offering him to be his informant and keep an eye on the lady. Yunseo replied that if it was to his advantage, he would gladly work for him in that capacity. The advisor was surprised that he could say this so easily. 2 years ago, Yunseo saved Mrs. He and her lady-in-waiting from certain death, but she has never thanked him or approached him since then. And now, when she needs something from Yunseo again, she showed up immediately. Yunseo understands that if he trusts such people, the time has come when he will be betrayed and thrown out as unnecessary. The boy realized that the lady wanted to use him, and decided that it would be better for him to secretly use her for his own purposes. Yunseo told the advisor that he only took risks when he saw a worthy benefit. The gentleman then asked what he wanted in return. Yunseo has not yet learned the techniques of increasing high-level chi energy, so he needs an elixir. Yunseo knew the recipes for some elixirs from his past life, and only the ingredients were needed. Yunseo told Advisor Wang that he had been unwell lately, and in exchange for such service, he needed medicinal herbs. The advisor was very surprised and asked again if he was sure that this was all he needed. The boy replied that he didn't need anything else. The advisor agreed to this condition, but every time Yunseo smiled, he felt like he was an unusual child. From then on, Yunseo reported to the advisor everything he saw and heard during his interactions with Mrs. He. And from the excellent quality medicinal herbs that the advisor paid with, Yunseo was able to make elixirs that restore chi energy. Yunseo devoted all his free time to physical exercises and practicing his techniques to perfection. 3 more years passed like this. In the end, Mrs. E lost the battle for the clan leader's position and was married off profitably and sent away. Once upon a time, Yunseo asked the lady's maids what she would do if her lady was defeated in the struggle for power. The lady-in-waiting asked what defeat meant. Yunseo said that in such a case, the usual thing to do with unnecessary heirs was to send them away. The boy told the maids of honor that they both should think about the future, since their destinies were connected with the lady. The lady-in-waiting replied that she had never thought about it. So Yun Seo asked her if she had ever thought about joining the Murima Warriors Union. The girl said that it sounded very wonderful, but all this was just stupid pipe dreams. Yun Seo directed her thoughts in the right direction and hoped that she would make the right decision. After all, when he himself joined the alliance, it would be good to have his own person there. It is not known whether this conversation played a role, but subsequently, the lady-in-waiting refused to follow her mistress and left the Manjang estate. It was the 5th year of Yun Seo's service to the Manjang clan, and all preparations were finally completed. Yun Seo decided that it was time for him to move on. He took the maximum from this place. But when the advisor found out about this, he said that he would never let Yun Seo go, because he had been preparing him as his successor from the very beginning. The advisor did not understand whether the salary he received and the herbs he was given were not enough for Yun Seo. He even started to cry and asked Yun Seo not to leave. Yun Seo told him that he had already made his decision and he was very sorry. But Yun Seo knew that this old fox had been getting more and more cunning lately. After all, everything he had transferred to the boy had been earned through honest work and not for his pretty eyes. The advisor continued that thanks to Yun Seo's efforts, the young master had risen to the position of clan leader. He told the boy that he could have a bright future. At that moment, the advisor lost his temper and started shouting that Yun Seo was a brat, and what did he want anyway? He was ready to give whatever the guy asked for. Yun Seo explained that he didn't need anything else and that he intended to become a martial artist. When the advisor heard this, he assumed that Yun Seo was breaking through to become a martial artist due to the few moves he had learned over the past few years. The advisor simply lost his temper with anger and called Yun Seo a weakling who couldn't even handle petty bullying. Yun Seo really wanted to leave on good terms because over the years he had become accustomed to the old man, but alas. And then Yun Seo proposed a bet to the advisor. Yun Seo promised that he would deal with any opponent he put against him. And if Yun Seo loses, then it will be as the advisor wants. The guy will obey and remain in the clan. But the one the advisor put against Yun Seo turned out to be the strongest warrior after the clan leader, the commander of the Manjang clan guard. Yun Seo thought that the old man had completely lost his conscience and assigned the commander of the guard to fight a 15-year-old boy. But the guy didn't get upset because it didn't matter who he fought. The commander asked the advisor about the rules of the battle. The advisor said that the winner is the one who knocks the opponent to the ground, and victory is also counted when one of them surrenders. The advisor also asked the commander with a grin not to kill the boy, because he would be his successor. Yun Seo immediately reminded the advisor that he had promised him a year's salary if he won. After all, the guy would need it on a long journey. The advisor replied that Yun Seo should not forget that if he lost, he would have to work for another 3 years. And he told the commander that he was counting on him very much. The commander told Yun so that he would give him the first blow. The boy did not refuse. Despite the amount of elixirs he had taken, Yun Seo's chi energy was still low. Then Yun Seo decided to deal with it as quickly as possible. But the boy did not expect that the commander would be so strong. In the first minutes of the battle, the commander was clearly winning. The advisor watched this and thought that he had asked the commander not to kill the boy. However, things quickly changed course. Yun Seo began to use the techniques he had learned during this time. The commander was surprised that Yun Seo blocked his sword strike and said that in that case he would fight him with all his strength. The advisor was surprised at how the energy of the commander's sword glowed, because only the clan guards could do that. However, the advisor suddenly noticed that Yun Seo's sword was also glowing. Had it really reached that level already? Yun Seo told the commander that he too was no longer going to play the game of give and take, which made the commander even more angry. The fight was serious. The advisor was already beginning to regret what he had done. The commander decided to use a beam of light. But Yun Seo was even glad about this, because the commander was definitely out of luck now. The light beam technique was Yun Seo's favorite and most powerful technique. Yun Seo still won, although it was not an easy task. The commander admitted his defeat. The commander apologized to Yun Seo and said that he had gotten carried away. The boy replied that everything was fine because he was entitled to a year's salary for this. Yun Seo noticed that the old man seemed to be planning to break his promise and warned him. The advisor promised to keep his word. The advisor nevertheless gave the promised salary, and Yun Seo set off on his free path with a calm soul. While Yun Seo was leaving, the commander told the advisor that all this time a dragon had been quietly living next to them in the estate and hiding its essence. The advisor asked the commander if this boy was really his equal in strength. The commander replied that even the clan leader would not be able to withstand a fight with Yun Seo. Then the advisor wondered who this boy was, if he was such a skilled warrior that even the entire Manjong clan had no equal to him. Meanwhile, Yun Seo continued on his way and looked in on his old enemy, the chief's servant. Yun Seo told him that he knew that he was a member of the secret society of Hao. The chief's servant denied it. Then Yun Seo scared him even more and said that there was no point in denying it because it would only get worse. Yun Seo asked the chief's servant about the tattoo on his ankle, which indicated that his title was nothing less than Incense Master. The chief's servant was very scared and began to ask Yun Seo how he knew all this. Even back then, 3 years ago, Yun Seo realized who the main servant really was, but he was waiting for this day. Yun Seo had already planned that this bastard would be part of his plan. The head servant kept shouting and asking what he wanted. Yun Seo replied that it was a small matter. He just needed to bring Yun Seo to the secret society of the Hao. The secret society of the Chao is an extraordinary place inhabited by merchants, courtesans, and servants. The most vulnerable sections of the population united into an alliance, the weakest in Amurim. A secret society of spies closely allied with the beggar sect. This society is the largest Murima alliance in terms of numbers. However, its leaders are very difficult to find. They keep a low profile. But Yun Seo has someone on his hook who will bring him into society. The same chief servant who holds the position of Master of Incense in the secret society. Yun Seo continued to threaten the chief servant and began to ask how he could become a customer for the secret society of Hao. The chief servant answered the guy that if he wanted to become a customer, he had come to the wrong place, because he had no right to decide such matters. Then Yun Seo told him that he was probably already thinking about reporting to his superiors from the Hao, since he had revealed his affiliation based on his tattoo. Yun Seo said that his management would be very interested in him after hearing his story. The servant became very angry and said that their society does not do business with unverified people. Yun Seo answered him, "Since when does the secret society of Hao choose who they deal with? After all, they even work with demonic sects when they need to." This simply infuriated the servant. He told Yun Seo to think about what he was saying, otherwise he could become an enemy of the secret society. The head servant told the boy that not everyone can order the services of their society. It costs money, and a lot of it. He told the boy that with his income, it was impossible. Yun Seo objected to him and said that the Hao society does not only take money. Then the servant asked if he had any skills that he wanted to pay with. Yun Seo told the servant to give them a message because he had information regarding the leader's youngest disciple. Yun Seo continued on his way and entered a house called Bright Moon. He sat down at a table and was told that the owner of the establishment would be here soon. Yun Seo wanted to pass on valuable information he remembered from his past life to the leadership of the House Secret Society. And the mysterious leaders of this society have no choice but to appear before him in person. In exchange, he will demand information about the Fist King. The House Secret Society is Yun Seo's only hope to find the Fist King and obtain the powerful light chi increasing technique. Suddenly, an old woman entered the establishment from the back door, accompanied by a nice lady. Yun Seo greeted her and asked her to sit down. He asked the lady if she was the leader of the local branch of the House Society. The old lady replied that he was absolutely right. The pretty girl poured tea for Yun Seo, and he asked her name. The girl replied that her name was Hua. The lady noticed that Yun Seo caught Hua's eye. The guy asked the girl how old she was. The girl replied that she would be 23 this year. She even felt embarrassed by all the attention she was getting. Yun Seo replied that she was quite young. Young to be the leader of the local branch of the house society. Hwa got very angry and asked how he knew that, although she didn't even deny it. Hwa thought that if he knew about their tattoos, then there was no point in denying it. Hwa ordered the boy to answer her question, as he understood. Yun Seo asked what would happen if he did not answer. The girl said that her decision whether to carry out his orders depended on it. Yun Seo replied that the leaders of the house society guard the secret of their identity very jealously. And here, at the first call, comes the supposed leader. And he even takes a courtesan to important negotiations. Isn't that funny? Yun Seo continued. Hwa replied that she always had to be present when deals were made. Yun Seo said that was why he realized that this was her way of not revealing herself. Hwa apologized to the guy and said that she didn't know that he knew their society so deeply, and suggested that they move on to making a deal. Yun Seo smiled and said that she was lying to him again, because he would not be making the deal with her. And with the one who hid in the ceiling, Yun Seo continued. And then an unknown person jumps from the ceiling right onto the table. He jumped down and immediately started attacking Yun Seo, saying that he didn't expect Yun Seo to be so good. Yun Seo knew that the house society was vast, but nevertheless, there were no real martial artists among them. There is only one master among them, one of the leaders of the secret society, equal in strength to the great masters of the Murima. During the battle, Yun Seo realized that his opponent with such skills must be held in high esteem among the top brass of the secret society. Yun Seo was fishing and caught a whole sperm whale. Such events only played into the guy's hands. The battle continued. Yun Seo saw that his opponent's agility skills were so high that he could barely keep up with him and not lose sight of him. The boy thought that he was probably sent by the leadership of the secret society. They swallowed the bait faster than Yun Seo expected. Yun Seo began to tell his opponent that he came because he needed the services of their society and that he did not wish to fight. The opponent shouted at him to drop his sword in that case and explain himself immediately. Yun Seo asked what exactly to explain. How did he know who the real leader of the local chapter was? Or why did he hide the fact that he was a martial artist? Or how did he know the secrets of their society? The opponent responded that everything needed to be explained. Yun Seo told him that this would not do, and if they wanted to deal with him, he demanded equality. The opponent got very angry and said that if the guy didn't speak now, he would remain silent forever. Yun Seo replied that he hardly had the strength for that. Without coming to any common conclusion or decision, they again clashed swords in battle. Yun Seo didn't expect his opponent to be so good at martial arts techniques. He even managed to cut his cheek. Yun Seo told his rival that he didn't think they killed their guests and wondered if they always did it that way. The opponent told him that there was no need to provoke them and was about to finish off Yun Seo with one blow. Finally, Yun Seo waited for the moment when his opponent rushed forward, forgetting about caution. Now Yun Seo is ready to deliver the decisive blow. Yun Seo used the Moon Shadow Sword technique with a force of 26 strikes. At that moment, his opponent noticed that Yun Seo's sword was glowing. Yun Seo had wounded him badly. The opponent asked why he had diverted the sword's trajectory at the end and not finished what he had started. Yun Seo replied that he had said that he needed the services of the secret society of Hao. In fact, Yun Seo did not intend to kill anyone, but simply fought back so that the negotiations would be on his terms. And that's why he used this technique, because for his chi energy, it was too much and risky. The man asked Yun Seo what he could offer for their services. The boy replied that he needed information, and he would buy it with valuable information as well. This angered the man. He began to shout that how dare Yun Seo come to the secret society of the Hao, the main information dealers of all the planes, and offer information in exchange. Yun Seo told him that his information was much more valuable, and that he knew about the plans of one of the demonic sects, and also knew how to save the young disciple of the leader of the secret society from death. After all, the young student was slowly dying from an unknown disease. The man asked how he knew this. The man asked if Yun Seo really knew how to cure the boy. Yun Seo told him not to be afraid and just hand it over to the cult leader. to convey that his disciple's illness was the work of a demonic sect. What he heard shocked the man. Yun-so said that before the young student fell ill, he had purchased a certain book on martial arts. This book was written by a heavenly demon. Yun-so continued. He also said that their student was not sick at all, but possessed by demons. He became obsessed with a book written by a heavenly demon with the purpose of sowing discord and heresy among Buddhist sects. The heavenly demon sent 5 volumes to the leaders of major Buddhist martial arts sections. His goal was to inflict demonic possession on the readers. The only ones who can drive out demons from the possessed are the heavenly demon and his disciples who help in writing the book. This was part of Yun-seo's plan, since he is that disciple, and if he were to exorcise the demons from those who were harmed by that book, Yun-seo will be able to build a path for herself into the Murima Alliance and achieve her goal of becoming an elder. Meanwhile, the man took out a medal from his pocket and handed it to Yun-so. He said that this was the plaque of the secret customer of the House Society. Then Yun-so asked if he could convey the essence of the order now. The man agreed. Yun-so handed him a roll of paper and said that everything was described in detail there. He asked to collect information about the leader of the Yellow Dragon sect, Dugu. The man took the package and said that he would soon find the boy and bring him information, and in exchange he would ask him to tell him the method of treatment for the student. Having finished with this, Yun-so decided to go to Sichuan, where, according to his information, the Fist King settled. On the way to the city of Sichuan, 2 men were riding horses. They were transporting some goods to the city. Suddenly, an unknown person jumped out of the bushes, covered in blood and holding a sword in his hands. He was clearly going to attack people. The robber cut off the head of one of them, and the other ran away in fear, taking the valuables with him. After this, the robber exhaled and said that it was not so easy to pretend to be crazy. On the way to Sichuan, Yun-so was already riding with a paper containing all the information he needed. In such a short time, the secret society of the How had proven to be very effective. The paper said that the person in question, Yun-so, does not communicate with anyone except his family and the patriarch of the Sichuan ruling clan. Although he was called a bloodless and tearless demon, he was an excellent martial arts teacher, and as a person, he was humble and kind. 7 years ago, he became famous for single-handedly destroying one of the dark sects, the Yellow Cloud sect, and he was nicknamed the Heavenly Fist. By the time Yun-seo left the Invisible Demon's Cave and began his career as a martial artist, he already held the title of Fist King. Nothing more is known about this man, except that he settled in Sichuan about 10 years ago. The information ended with a message to Yun-seo that they had sent out inquiries to agents in the area and were waiting for responses, and if any new information came in, they would contact the guy. However, Yun-seo did not understand why the Fist King was now living under the guise of a humble martial arts teacher, a supreme master who would take his place among the 10 strongest masters of the bright path of the heavenly emperors. Among the Buddhist martial artists, he was a giant. It seems that at this time, he has not yet reached the title of Fist King, judging by the fact that even the secret society of How cannot find information about his past. Someone is deliberately protecting evidence of his presence in other places. During these years, in his past life, Yun-seo was tested in the cave of the Invisible Demon. Then Yun-seo decided to go on a quest himself. No effort is spared in order to be able to gain the trust of the Fist King and gain knowledge from him. From the carriage, the boy suddenly overheard a conversation between people riding nearby on horses. One was telling the other that a demon man had been spotted in the vicinity of Sichuan. The man shared his fears that the area around Sichuan was controlled by a demonic sect. His companion replied that if that were the case, they would have met them on their way by now. Most likely, it was just a lonely madman, reveling in his dark power. But the man said that this villain is most likely very strong. He suddenly appears and suddenly disappears. It is impossible to catch him. Demon people are those who study the dark arts, and learning these powerful arts always comes with dire consequences. The followers of the demonic sect receive the dark elixir of blood reversal, so that their blood changes its properties and becomes resistant to the negative effects of the dark arts. But these negative influences cannot be completely eliminated, as a result of which many adherents become obsessed with sins. If an ordinary person somehow gets to the dark arts and does not receive the dark elixir of blood reversal, he will turn into a bloodthirsty madman. Yun so remembered that just at that time, there was an incident in Sichuan where a ghost demon named Gong, who was the elder of the cave, went on a mission and returned seriously injured. The guy then suggested that it couldn't be a coincidence that two human demons were in the same place at the same time. Yun Seo quickly dismissed these thoughts, believing that it would not affect him since the ghost demon traveled in secret. And if there really is a madman possessed by demonic power living in the Sichuan region, then Yun So will simply give him a beating and arrest him. Yun Seo arrived at the Yellow Dragon Martial Arts Hall. It is one of the best martial arts training schools in Sichuan, and it is incredibly large. Yun Seo approached the gates of the establishment and asked the guards how he could enter this establishment. One of the men asked the boy if he was alone. Yun Seo replied that he was alone. However, the boy immediately noticed how they looked down on him. The guard told the boy that he needed to prove his skills and then pay monthly for training. Yun Seo replied that he had the money and skills. The guard said that it would be more profitable to enroll next year, since the exam period was already over, and you would have to pay for an individual exam that would be conducted by the school's top master. Yun Seo listened carefully to all the recommendations and replied that none of this mattered to him. Then the guards looked at each other and decided to escort Yun So to the reception room. Yun Seo decided that rather than guessing what to do, he would rather go ahead and see what would happen. Yun Seo was escorted to the reception area, where he sat and thought that if he requested an individual exam, he would easily be able to fight with Dugu himself. All that was left was to come up with a plan for what to do next. Yun So sat waiting and didn't understand why no one was coming to him. How suddenly someone asked him if he wanted to go to school. Yun Seo was scared out of the blue. He didn't even feel any presence. The guy introduced himself and said his name was Yun So. The master responded by telling his name and introducing himself as Dugu. Yun Seo couldn't believe that this was actually one of the 10 heavenly emperors, warriors of Buddhism, equal in strength to the 8 demon overlords of the demonic sects. The Supreme Master, ranked among the 5 strongest heavenly emperors, the future Fist King, Dugu. Yun Seo came there to meet him, but he still didn't expect the meeting to be like this. Dugu said that the senior master was currently absent, so he would take the exams in his place as one of the teachers. Yun Seo decided that if this meeting had taken place, there was no point in beating around the bush, and asked Dugu to accept him as a disciple. Dugu laughed and said that there was an exam first. Yun Seo replied that he had misunderstood him, as Yun Seo meant that he wanted to become his personal disciple. Dugu was very surprised by this and was slightly shocked. Yun Seo explained that he wanted to learn the martial arts of the Heavenly Lightning School. This apparently angered Dugu, and he began to glow all over. Yun So knew that this was a deadly immaterial force of qi, controlled by human will. Dugu started shouting at him. How dare he utter the name of the Heavenly Lightning School, and ordered Yun So to explain himself right now and be completely honest if he wanted to stay alive. Yun Seo was wrong when he thought that Dugu had not yet reached the level of the Fist King at this time. Just looking at him takes Yun Seo's breath away. But the boy didn't stop, because he shouldn't have started this path if he was going to chicken out now. Yun Seo revealed that the House Secret Society had told him that Dugu was the only teacher in the Heavenly Lightning Secret School. And this secret school always has only one teacher, who passes on knowledge to the next. Dugu became even more angry. Then Yun Seo asked him if he didn't need a disciple to continue passing on the secret martial art to the next generation. Dugu started shouting that he didn't want it. Then Yun Seo replied that he didn't want this martial art to die with him. Dugu replied that that was exactly what he wanted. Yun Seo didn't understand why the master said that. Then the boy said that he sincerely wanted to learn the martial art of Heavenly Lightning. Dugu said that he had nothing to teach him, even though Yun Seo had demonstrated amazing resistance to his chi energy. Dugu continued that the art of heavenly lightning is not achieved by talent alone. The master stood up and began to leave, saying that he should teach Yun Seo a lesson for digging into his past. But Dugu didn't want to make any unnecessary noise, so he advised Yun Seo to keep his mouth shut and not to blab about him to anyone if he valued his life. Yun Seo did not want to put up with this and began to shout that he was not going to leave and asked to listen to him. Dugu told him to leave immediately and said that he would report to the Supreme Master that Yun Seo had given up and failed the exam. It seems that the art of heavenly lightning conceals some danger that Yun Seo did not even suspect. After all, it is not without reason that Dugu does not want to pass this art on to his successor. However, Yun Seo didn't expect it to be easy. He decided not to stop trying. It would be dangerous to stop. For Dugu, Yun Seo is a threat, a boy who could spill the beans about the secret of the Heavenly Lightning School at any moment. Yun Seo decided that he had to go to the Yellow Dragon School and become its disciple. In the worst-case scenario, Dugu would kill him. Meanwhile, Dugu was tormented by the thought that even though he had warned Yun Seo, no one could keep a secret forever. Then Dugu decided to follow Yun Seo personally and make sure that he could rely on him. On his way, he met the Supreme Master, and what was Dugu's surprise when he saw Yun Seo behind him. The Supreme Master said that he met this young man at the gate. The Supreme Master also added that Yun Seo is polite and well-built for his age, and he thinks the boy will make a great warrior. The High Master decided that it would be unwise to give such excellent material to other schools, and decided to accept the boy into their school on personal responsibility. The Master introduced Dugu Yun Seo and said that he was their best teacher, also called the Heavenly Fist. The Supreme Master also informed the boy that Dugu would now be his teacher. Yun Seo accepted this with respect and introduced himself to the teacher. Soon, Yun Seo began his training. A couple of days later, during one of the regular training sessions, Dugu dismissed all the students and left only Yun Seo for additional training. Dugu told the boy that he would have to work hard to make up for all the misprogramming. Dugu also said that if Yun Seo had left the city without making any noise and had never shown up again, he would have had no complaints against him. Yun Seo told the teacher that if he were capable of giving up so shamefully, he would not have come to study with him. Dugu asked the guy if he was sure he wanted this, because he would have to work until he sweated blood, until his bones crunched, until his ligaments tore. Yun Seo replied that he had always been stubborn. Dugu said that he would see how long he could last. Evening came. Dugu got angry that the guy held out until the very closing of the hall. And now, because of him, he himself returns home late. And then, having come home, Dugu observes a picture of Yun Seo sitting at his table and playing with his son. Dugu's wife said that she met Yun Seo on her way home from the market, and he helped her carry her bags home. Yun Seo told the woman that he was a student of the Yellow Dragon School, and she kindly invited him to dinner. Also, Moon, Dugu's wife, added that Yun Seo was a very well-mannered boy. Yun Seo laughed and told the teacher how small the world was. They all started eating dinner together, and with the help of chi energy, the teacher and Yun Seo began to communicate with each other. Dugu asked how he found his house and what he had in mind. Yun Seo replied that he had nothing in mind, and that he simply met his wife at the market and helped her because Moon had twisted her ankle. Dugu ordered him not to lie to him, because he assumed that the guy knew about his family from the house society. Then Dugu became even more angry and suggested that Yun Seo had deliberately arranged for his wife to twist her ankle. Yun Seo replied that he wouldn't do such a thing, but what he knows about their family is true. He also added that he is not a bloodthirsty ghoul to do such a thing. Dud replied that they would see each other tomorrow in the hall. Yun Seo agreed. Moon asked Yun Seo if it was tasty. The guy replied that he was very pleased with everything. The next morning, Yun Seo went to Dugu's house again. Moon thanked him again for helping him at the market and for agreeing to take care of her son's son. Yun Seo knew that in order to gain someone's trust, he had to charm his loved ones first. Dugu dotes on his family, so Yun Seo decided to become their friend. Sun and Yun Seo were walking through the market. Little Sun noticed some sweets and asked to buy some. Yun Seo replied that he would buy him some sweets after he did his business. After that, the boy asked why Yun Seo was talking to him in a polite manner. Yun Seo replied that he was used to it and never spoken formally. This was Yun Seo's way of surviving in the invisible demon's cave. There, he forever forgot how to use informal speech with people. Sun asked if he could just call him Yo. The boy laughed and said that he could call him whatever he wanted. Sun began to rush Yun, so to quickly do his chores so that he could quickly return and buy sweets. Suddenly, Yun Seo saw and felt the dark energy of Qi. He noticed a demon man looking straight into his eyes. Yun Seo realized that this was the same madman possessed by demonic forces. But Yun Seo, who lived in a demonic sect for 2 decades, is not so easy to deceive. Yun Seo immediately realized that this guy was not just some wandering madman. He was a master of the dark arts. Judging by the events of that time, he most likely belongs to an elite squad of evil spirits, led by a bloodthirsty demon ghost. However, Yun Seo did not understand why he was challenging him. The guy did not want to get into a fight with a strong warrior of the demonic sect. But he also had to ensure safety for Sun, who had already started asking what was going on. Seeing the demon man, people began to run in all directions, and panic broke out in the market. Suddenly, Yun Seo noticed people wearing robes with designs similar to those of the Qing, Changshan Taoist monks. The guy suggested that the Taoist sect sent its warriors to Sichuan to catch the demon-possessed person. But he didn't understand why the member of the evil spirit squad was acting like a madman, and why he was attracting so much attention to himself. Sun asked what was wrong. Yun Seo replied that they needed to hurry up and do their shopping and head home, because things were not going well there. Yun Seo would like to catch and interrogate the demon man himself, but he doesn't want to take unnecessary risks. At one time, in the demon cave, the demon man approached the bloodthirsty ghost demon and reported that he had scanned the aura and found what he needed. The ghost demon was delighted by the news and said that he could finally leave this backwater Sichuan and return to the heavenly demon sect. He put his claw to the throat of the man who served him and asked him why he was not happy for his master. The man asked not to kill him. Without thinking twice, the ghost demon destroyed the man with one movement and without any regret. Then he began to question. He asked where the heavenly body was now. At the same time, he tormented the girl who was nearby. A month has passed since Yun Seo started studying at the school. However, Dugu still keeps Yun Seo at a distance. The guy does not understand what secret connects him, that he cannot teach him. Yun Seo was walking around the market once again and unexpectedly met Mrs. Moon, who was very worried. The lady ran up to the guy and told him that Sun had disappeared and she couldn't find him anywhere. Yun Seo tried to calm her down and asked her to tell him everything. The lady said that she had returned home from the market, but Sun was no longer home. The house was turned upside down. The lady looked for him everywhere he could be, but all in vain. Yun Seo thought that if the house was in disarray, the boy had been kidnapped. But who would dare to kidnap the son of a famous martial arts teacher from the Yellow Dragon School? Ms. Moon added that Sun had an unusual body and he couldn't be away from home for long, otherwise he. Yun Seo asked what exactly was wrong with the boy's body. The lady continued and said that the doctor said that the boy's body was an heavenly body. As soon as Yun Seo heard this, he asked the lady to run to the Yellow Dragon School as quickly as possible and convey his words to Mr. Doug. Yun Seo told Lady Moon that the Heavenly Demon Sect had kidnapped Sunday. He told Lady Moon to escape as quickly as possible. Yun Seo realized everything. He realized that the possessed person was not looking at him, but at the boy's son. So he deliberately pretended to be crazy and wandered around Sichuan in search of the heavenly body. Yun Seo knew that if this demon man was a member of the evil spirit squad, then the person behind this kidnapping was most likely a bloodthirsty ghost demon. Yun Seo understood that the motive for this kidnapping was to bring the heavenly body so that he could be accepted back into the sect. He wanted to appease Yun Seo's brother adept from his previous life, the first disciple of the heavenly demon. The name of the first disciple of the heavenly demon Su-ake, who bears the title of the King of Evil. He is the bearer of uncontrollable yang power, and he also uses flame techniques. The yang force in him is a threat to his own life, and to neutralize this threat, he constantly needs elixirs containing strong energy. That is, he constantly needs celestial bodies. It finally became clear to Yun Seo that the reason Du-gu came out of the shadows was to avenge the murder of his son. For many atrocities, the heavenly demon exiled the bloodthirsty ghost demon away from the sect to Sichuan. And at the time, Yun Seo couldn't understand how he could be accepted back after that, contrary to the rules. He had no idea that the ghost demon had made a deal with Suike. It turned out that it was the bloodthirsty ghost demon, this old, obese fool, who caused Du-gu to become the Fist King. Yun Seo has been to Sichuan many times on behalf of the sect leader, so he knows by heart all the places where the bloodthirsty ghost demon might go. But Yun Seo didn't know yet which place he was heading to, and he hoped that he wouldn't be late while he checked each one. Meanwhile, the demon had the boy in his claws. One of his servants advised him not to press on the boy's acupuncture points, because that could kill him. Because if blood starts to flow, it won't be possible to stop it. The ghost demon started laughing and said that it made no difference, since the boy only needed to survive until they arrived at the sect. After that, the ghost demon asked his ward if he had received an answer from the lousy Suike. The subordinate replied that there was no answer and asked if he should send another messenger. The demon replied that there was no need, since he had no choice but to accept it. Suddenly, their carriage was stopped by a man from Qingshan, who said that he would punish them for killing innocent people. Hearing this, the ghost demon ordered to kill this miserable worm who dared to block his path. The massacre began. The monk did not expect that they were all from the demonic sect. The forces were clearly unequal. The monk held the defense for a surprisingly long time. The ghost demon got tired of it and sent a subordinate to sort it out. He was stronger than the others. But then Yun Seo suddenly appeared. The subordinate asked who he was. The guy replied that he did not wish them any harm, and he warned them that it would be better not to get into trouble if they wanted to continue living their worthless lives. However, at this moment, Yun Seo was still thinking about what he should do, because all these warriors from the evil spirit squad were high-level masters. The boy understood that if he entered into a fight with them on the monk side, they could defeat them, but the carriage is driven by the commander of a squad of evil spirits, and in the carriage itself sits a bloodthirsty demon ghost. Yun Seo understood how much effort it took him to get his life back, and he simply couldn't die a dog's life now. Yun Seo began to blame himself for what was happening. He thought that he shouldn't have agreed to go out with Sun that day. However, the boy understood that if he saved Song, he would be able to earn Du-gu's trust in this way. The guy decides to grab Sun and run as fast and as far as possible. Yun Seo caught a good opportunity to take a peek inside and suddenly attack the bloodthirsty ghost demon. However, the ghost demon sensed Yun Seo and with one swing pushed him back several meters. The guy was able to stay on his feet and notice Sun in the hands of the ghost demon. He was still alive, so Yun Seo realized that they needed him alive to deliver Su-ike. Yun Seo began to fight against an opponent several times stronger than himself because he had to save the boy. Yun Seo managed to snatch the boy from the demon ghost's hands. However, he was caught by his jackal servants. The ghost demon started screaming for them to bring Yun Seo to him alive immediately because he didn't deserve a quick death. The squad leader immediately rushed at Yun Seo. The guy had no choice but to save Sun's life and his own. Realizing that he couldn't defeat everyone with the child in his arms, Yun Seo decided to hand the boy over to the monk. Yun Seo ordered him to take the boy and run away from there quickly while he delayed them, because even together they would not be able to defeat them. Yun Seo asked the monk to hurry, because someone had to save the boy and call for help. The monk agreed and said that he would call the clan warriors. The ghost demon ordered his dogs to run after the monk, and he would take Yun Seo on himself. Yun Seo felt a little better about Sun because he had confidence in the monk. Now he could fight the ghost demon. Yun Seo told the demon that he was so blinded by the need for a valuable ransom that he did not even realize that he had stolen a child from a tiger. The ghost demon started laughing and told Yun Seo that he was bluffing because he was afraid of him. The guy realized that just like in his past life, now this old fool did not understand that his actions had brought upon himself the wrath of the great master. The ghost demon attacked Yun Seo, and they began to fight in a very intense fight. The guy held up very well until the demon grabbed him. Yun Seo understood that defeating the bloodthirsty ghost demon was suicide for him now. However, Yun Seo has experience fighting with his son and student, Hwa. He is much stronger, but their martial arts are the same. Yun Seo knows all of his moves, but at the same time, he doesn't know him. And for him, Yun Seo is unpredictable. The ghost demon is hard to defeat, but Yun Seo is able to buy himself some time. But while the guy was saving Sun, he got injured and doesn't know how much longer he can last. Yun Seo began to use 3 consecutive strikes, and then full moon, which blinded the demon. The ghost demon was very angry. He could not understand how a brat who had barely learned to walk could scratch him. After this, the demon could not stand it and said that he wanted to take him alive, but he would not play anymore. Yun Seo barely managed to put up a block. A little more, and the demon's blow would have turned his insides into mush. The ghost demon was very surprised that Yun Seo was still alive, but he promised not to leave a speck of dust from the boy. Yun Seo replied that the gods had gifted him not only with intelligence, but also with vitality, and reminded the demon that the monk had already fled far away. The ghost demon began to laugh and said that the monk would not go anywhere because his people were already waiting for him. At this time, the monk and the boy were indeed awaited by people from the demon ghost squad. Yun Seo knew that there were 24 people in the evil spirit squad, but he could not foresee that they would be placed exactly where the monk would run. Now Yun Seo understood why the ghost demon was acting so calmly. However, the boy couldn't worry about others right now. Yun Seo will have to face the bloody ghost demon in a fight to the death. The leader of the evil spirit squad stands aside for now because he has orders. However, Yun Seo knew that the commander could intervene at any moment. The boy began to wonder if he had made a mistake when he tried to save the boy. Everything turned out in such a way that Yun Seo already began to regret his actions, but he quickly pulled himself together and decided that there was no time for regret. The boy knew that if you were constantly afraid of death, you shouldn't even stick your nose into the murim. Danger, moreover, often opens up unexpected opportunities. Yun Seo gathered his strength and once again entered into battle with the ghost demon. He hoped that he could hold out for a little while longer and help would come. Meanwhile, the monk tried to hold his own against the 24 demons. He realized that there were too many of them and there was nowhere to run. The demons screamed at the monk to surrender. They knew he was trying to stall for time until the clan came to his aid. The monk knew he couldn't survive against such opponents, so he said he had a proposition for them. The monk suggested that they move somewhere so that the child would not be harmed, because they also needed him alive. However, the demons did not listen to the monk and began to shout that he should not take them for fools, because he would not be able to deceive them. The monk did not understand whether this was his death. After all, he had pursued them to catch the possessed man, but he had not succeeded in doing this either. The monk remembered Yun Seo's words, how he asked him to protect the child. He realized that he had failed in this too. Then the monk realized that this was his end. He closed his eyes and asked his God for forgiveness for failing to protect the innocent soul of the child. But suddenly the monk opened his eyes and saw before him the man who had saved their lives. The monk did not understand who it was. It was Dugu. He barely made it in time to prevent the disaster. He did not understand why the demons were raging there and not in Xinjiang. However, he said that none of these evil spirits would leave this forest alive. The monk tried to appeal to Doug, but the master told him to wait. Dugu began to destroy one after another. The monk could not keep up with him, his speed, strength, movements. Dugu shouted that for him, this was not just a battle. It was a real hunt and cruel revenge. The monk had no idea that there were such masters in Sichuan. In a few seconds, he managed to deal with 24 demons. The monk asked Dugu who he was. Dugu replied that he was the boy's father and told him to leave quickly and take his son to a safe place. The monk was surprised that Dugu entrusted him with his son. Dugu said that he would definitely come to King Chengshin in person later to express his gratitude to their monastic order. He also added that he would like to form an escort, but he needs to hurry to save his student. Meanwhile, Yun Seo was trying his best to hold his own against the ghost demon. The guy had almost no energy left. Yun Seo tried to be cunning and get around the ghost demon in different ways, but it didn't work anymore. The ghost demon realized that Yun Seo was only provoking him and had no magical art skills in his soul. The demon literally lost his temper and dealt a powerful blow, sending Yun Seo flying back several meters and landing on the ground. Yun Seo didn't lose consciousness. He didn't understand how this damn old man, being so fat, could move so fast. Yun Seo knew that the ghost demon was a great master who had perfected all aspects of chi energy, endurance, physical strength, and even combat experience. The ghost demon noticed that Yun Seo was clinging to life with all his might, and it even amused him. The boy knew that he needed to hold on for a while and wait for help. The demon began to strike one blow after another. While Yun Seo was still able, he still managed to somehow avoid direct blows. Yun Seo saw that the demon's pride was hurt because he couldn't handle the child and was embarrassed in front of his subordinate. Yun Seo's sword was broken, so he could only dodge his attacks with a set of 1,000 palms inspired by the Asuras. But this requires a huge amount of chi energy, which Yun Seo does not have. The guy currently has no effective techniques against the demon. The demon's attacks were so spectacular that Yun Seo decided that instead of blocking the blows, he should dodge them. Yun Seo understood that if the demon didn't hit him, it would waste all its strength. The main thing was not to get hit by any of the strong blows. The commander was watching at this time and saw that the boy was really strong, although exhausted, but he did not miss a single strong attack. The commander saw a child who was not yet 20 years old desperately fighting against the elder of the invisible demon cave. While the elder lost all his composure, the commander remembered his duty. It was his duty as the leader of the evil spirit squad to stop the elder when he lost his temper. So despite the order, the commander decided to intervene. The commander came down from the top and wounded Yun Seo. The ghost demon started shouting that he had told them not to interfere. The commander reminded him that they needed to clear out the old shelters, and they were just wasting time. The commander also warned that the Qing Chengshan monastic order would also appear soon, as their mental connection with the monk would be severed. The ghost demon became angry and said that he would receive his punishment for disobeying, but for now, let him watch as he tore Yun Seo apart. Suddenly, the ghost demon was interrupted by the appearance of Master Dugu. Yun Seo was very happy to see him and said that he was a little late. Dugu told the boy that he was a good boy for holding on. Yun Seo replied that it was not quite so and asked him to quickly deal with the demons and take him to a doctor. The commander couldn't move. He couldn't understand what kind of person this was. After all, he, who had reached the heights of awareness, couldn't move from fear. The ghost demon also didn't understand anything. Could it really be that this was materialized chi energy controlled by will? The demon couldn't believe that this was a supreme master against whom he was helpless, or was it one of the 10 heavenly emperors? Dugu asked the demon a question. He asked for what purpose he kidnapped his son, and how he even had enough intelligence to do this. The demon replied that he had no idea who he was or who his son was. Yun Seo reminded the demon that he had warned him whose son he was. The ghost demon replied that he thought Yun Seo was bluffing, but it turned out that he was telling the absolute truth. The demon told Doug that if he wanted his son to live, he shouldn't do anything rash. Doug told him that if he was relying on his mongrels, they were already dead. After this, Dugu again asked the demon for what purpose he had kidnapped his son and what he needed. Yun Seo told his teacher that he already knew everything about the demon's goals. Then Dugu replied that he no longer needed the demon alive. Yun Seo told the teacher that this was so, but if he broke his arms and legs, then his energy center would survive, and bringing it to Qin Qingshan would be a very glorious offering as a token of gratitude. Dugu agreed, but first decided to deal with the commander. He destroyed him in a second. The ghost demon was thinking at this time about how to save himself, to survive, and later find them and tear them to pieces. However, he could not do this in any way. He could not even move. Such hopelessness angered the demon. The best solution for the demon seemed to be to take Yun Seo hostage so that he could blackmail her into giving him his freedom. The ghost demon was about to grab the boy, but Yun Seo told him that it was the stupidest decision to turn his back on the Supreme Master. At this time, Master Dugu captured the ghost demon and destroyed it. The old man has become completely mentally decrepit, Yun Seo thought. Yun Seo woke up all wrapped up in bandages and couldn't figure out where he was, assuming it was a hospital. The guy's condition was simply terrible. However, thanks to the latest incident, he realized that he could change the course of events with his actions. In his past life, Dugu had joined the Murima warriors and then lost his son. Dugu's kidnapping and murder were supposed to happen later. Perhaps the reason for this is that Yun Seo took Sun with him for a walk, and one of the demonic sectarians saw them there. But the guy understood that he shouldn't be overconfident because he knew the past, because everything could go wrong. Suddenly, Mrs. Moon entered the room and was very happy that Yun Seo had finally come to his senses. The lady told the boy that he was very seriously injured and began to thank Yun Seo for everything he did. Yun Seo replied that there was no need to thank him because he did what he had to do. Suddenly, Master Dugu entered the room and asked if he had finally woken up. Yun Seo was even scared from the surprise. The teacher told Yun Seo that he had been unconscious for 10 days. The boy was surprised and asked where he was now. Dugu replied that this was the hospital of the Sichuan Tang clan. Yun Seo was surprised and asked again if this was the clan that belonged to the 5 great houses. The Sichuan Tang clan has produced many great healers and is also renowned for its poison experts. Yun Seo told the teacher that he had heard about the Tang clan and that their healers were very expensive. The teacher replied that he did not have to worry about money. Yun Seo thanked the teacher and asked how his son was feeling. Dugu replied that he was fine, and he asked Yun Seo not to worry since Sun was not injured, not hurt, and not even hurt by the pressure on the acupuncture points. Yun Seo replied that he was very happy about it. Dugu thanked the guy again and said that he was in his debt to him. The teacher said that he could ask for whatever he wanted except for learning the martial arts of the Heavenly White Lightning School. But Yun Seo replied that this was exactly what he was asking for. Dugu became very angry and told him stop. Yun Seo replied that he wanted nothing more in life than to learn this martial art. The teacher said that he had already told him that he couldn't learn it. Then Yun Seo demanded to at least explain why he couldn't do it. The guy wanted to know why he should give up his dream and what Dugu was so afraid of. Dugu agreed to explain to Yun Seo so he would know why it was so dangerous, but he also cast a chi barrier around them so they couldn't be heard. Dugu told Yun Seo that he couldn't learn the martial arts of the Heavenly Lightning School because only people with impassable vessels could master it. Yun Seo was shocked and asked the teacher again if he meant the congenital curse of the body, in which a person does not live to be 20 years old. Yun Seo knew that this disease was even rarer than the Yin heavenly body. Dugu confirmed this. The teacher explained that the disease of impassable vessels is when a person's vessels are too narrow and rigid, which causes the circulation of chi energy to be disrupted. Because of this, a person with blocked vessels, unless he, of course, learns energy-building techniques, cannot survive. Because the stagnation of chi energy that increases over time is deadly. Yun Seo asked what this disease has to do with the school of heavenly lightning. The teacher said that the art of the white lightning body makes the chi energy powerful and heavy. It becomes deadly. Thus, if a person with an ordinary body learns the technique of the heavenly lightning body, his blood vessels will not withstand it and will burst. At the same time, people with the disease of impassable vessels easily withstand the circulation of powerful white lightning. Their vessels are thick and rigid, and this saves them. Yun Seo knew that there was some kind of obstacle, but he never thought that it would involve impassable vessels. Dugu said that naturally he was also born with blocked vessels. The power of the white lightning chi energy expanded them and made circulation free. This disease has a perfect symbiosis with this technique of increasing chi potential. That is why the carrier of knowledge of the school of heavenly lightning cannot have more than 2 successors. It is very difficult to find a suitable disciple with such a disease. Dugu said that Yunseo probably thought that the Heavenly Lightning School was just a secret sect with a rule of not accepting more than 1 disciple. Then Yunseo asked the teacher why he said that he didn't care if his knowledge of this school died with him. After all, the fact that it was difficult for him to find a disciple was not a reason to give up. Dugu replied that it was because there was a way for an ordinary person to learn the Heavenly Lightning School. Yun-so jumped up with joy at this news. He knew that he was ready to do anything just to learn these techniques. Dugu said that for this, the master must control the circulation of his students' chi and gradually increase the energy potential. Yunseo asked again that he would need constant supervision. The teacher replied that it would be very difficult for his body. The boy asked how the teacher knew this, since he hadn't started teaching him yet, and he added that Dugu's words hadn't convinced him to give up on this idea. Dugu said that there was a time when he despaired of finding children with vascular obstruction and decided to accept orphans as students. Master Dugu's teachings had ruined the innocent souls of these children. He could not continue to sacrifice children's lives. So Dugu set out on a journey through the Central Plains to find a disciple among those suffering from vascular obstruction. And naturally, it was practically impossible. And again, he turned to teaching orphans, despite the possible sacrifices. He wanted so much for at least one of them to survive and become the heir of the Heavenly Lightning School. But again and again they died. Dugu was disgusted with himself for being blinded by ambition and forgetting how this teaching always ends for ordinary children. So even if the knowledge died with him, he would not regret it. Better that way than to become the cause of innocent victims again. Dugu said that even if he had a student who survived, in the future he would have to do the same thing he did to pass on the knowledge to the next generation. Entering the Murim, Yunseo had already resigned himself to the thought of death, but dying in battle and causing death to innocent people are not the same thing. Yunseo told the teacher that he had no idea what a heavy stone he was carrying on his heart. Dugu began to tell the boy that he could ask for whatever he wanted, but not force him to teach the art of the white lightning body. Yunseo smiled and told the teacher not to be afraid because he would not be angry even if he died. Dugu got angry and asked if he even understood that even with his support and help, this was practically impossible. The teacher added that he had no doubts about Yunseo's talents, but talent does not help in mastering this martial art. Only trial and error helps. Yunseo knew that in his past life, he had learned the heavenly demon creation chi potential building technique, the most powerful in all of Murim. So he told the teacher that if he was worried about it, then there was no need to worry because he had a lot of experience. Yunseo asked Dugu to start and said that he was the solution to all his problems and mistakes in the past. The boy, with full confidence, took a comfortable position for training and told the teacher that he was completely ready. Dugu understood that the white lightning body art could kill a person if he made even the slightest mistake while performing the energy technique. Dugu knew that if something happened to Yunseo because of him, he would never be able to wash away this sin. However, the teacher understood that the boy had special physical abilities, and perhaps he could learn the art of the body of white lightning. Dugu tried to dissuade Yunseo, but he refused after all he had learned. Despite everything, the teacher still had hope of passing on his knowledge as an inheritance. The teacher sat down next to his student and began to pray in his heart that nothing would happen to the boy. Dugu told Yunseo that the art of the body of heavenly lightning strengthens the body and blood vessels. And if he endures, there will come a time when his body's regeneration will increase and begin to heal the damage. Yunseo really wanted to reach this level and knew what he had to go through. The teacher said that he would start transmitting his chi energy into his vessels. Dugu told the boy to watch the energy circulation carefully and learn to control it. At the same time, he reminded him that it would be very difficult. The teacher warned that he would gradually increase the amount of chi that he would transfer into his vessels, and Yun-So would feel the heaviness of this energy. Dugu reminded him again that if his blood vessels couldn't withstand this, they would burst. Yun-So asked the teacher not to worry about it. The guy told Doug not to be afraid because what scared him so much would not happen again, and he asked him not to hesitate and start. The teacher agreed and began. Yun-So felt that the energy was not as rough as the demonic chi from the creation of the heavenly demon, but it was just as powerful and heavy. Dugu told the boy to focus on the movement of chi energy, and he immersed Yun-So's aura into his own. Now the boy saw what it was like, the teacher's energy. The teacher began transmitting energy. Yun-So was about to follow the teacher's actions, but he found it difficult to concentrate due to the pressure of the energy's power. Yun-So knew that he had to concentrate, because if his attention was distracted from his teacher's movement for even a second, his chi would be thrown into chaos. In his past life, Yun-So had grown to become a supreme master, so he decided that he could do this too. At this time, the teacher shouted that he was slowly increasing the amount of chi energy and told the boy to concentrate. Just a small increase in energy, and Yun-So's veins were already ready to burst. He couldn't withstand the pressure. The energy was too powerful. Yun-So knew he had to concentrate, or he would pass out at best. The teacher began to think that he had been too hasty in increasing the energy, since Yun-So had concentrated so well at first. But Dugan knew that if he stopped now, his chi energy would go out of control. He began to tell his disciple to be patient for a little while longer. Dugu started shouting as loudly as he could that just a little more, and the first phase would end. Yun-So just had to endure a little bit. Finally, the first phase ended. Yun-So did not come to his senses. The teacher began to think that he had failed. Dugu began to blame himself. He asked Yun-So to wake up, but the boy still did not come to his senses and did not respond. Suddenly, the teacher noticed some movements of Yun-So's body. The boy stood up and asked the teacher what was wrong with him and why he was screaming like that. Dugu was very happy. He began to thank all the gods for the fact that his student remained alive, and he could not believe it. The teacher told Yun-So that if something happened to him, he would not be able to survive it. He felt the same way when Sun was kidnapped. Yun-So asked the teacher not to say that, but to be happy that he finally succeeded. The boy said that he really hoped for the teacher's lessons, and asked if he could ask a question. Yun-So said that the chi in his body was unevenly distributed, as if it was divided into two halves, and that he had a discord between his consciousness and energy. The teacher said that he needed to get used to the fact that the voids in his body would be filled due to the greater density of chi. In that case, Yun-So said that he had to devote more time to this energy-building technique, and that it alone was not enough. The teacher replied that he had said that the body of white lightning is an art not of increasing the quantity of energy, but its quality. That is why it gives results more slowly. But after the initiation stage, the effectiveness will increase dramatically. The body, skilled in this technique, begins to attract the energy of the surrounding world. Yun-So asked how much he needed to increase his potential to make that happen. The teacher replied that he would need to grow to the sexagesimal cycle. Yun-So had never heard of such a thing before, but the boy knew that by the time he reached the full cycle, he would already be a decrepit old man. The teacher said that at this stage, he would be the strongest among the 5 great clans and 9 great sects. But then Yun-So asked the teacher how he himself was able to achieve such a level at such a young age. Then the teacher threw a box into his hands and told him to take a look. Yun-So opened the box and saw an elixir inside. Yun-So started laughing. Could it really be that the secret elixirs of Shaolin were being sold like sunflower seeds at the market these days? Then the teacher told Yun-So that in his youth, the great master Yun had given this to him personally. Yun-So couldn't believe his ears that it was the Shaolin abbot himself, the Buddha, who had ascended to the throne of the Ijong. The boy couldn't believe that this was a small circle elixir given to him by Master Yong himself. It gave an increase in energy volume equal to half of a sexagesimal circle. If Yun so accepted it, he would only master half of it due to the use of the white lightning body technique. The boy became curious about who the teacher was in his youth. The teacher told the boy that if he didn't like the gift, he could return it. Yun Seo replied that he would never forget this favor. Dugu told Yun so that he helped him start studying the art of the white lightning body, but he does not give up on his idea to close the lightning school forever. Yun Seo said that the teacher had no need to worry because he only needed to become stronger and had no plans to pass on his knowledge. The teacher thanked Yun Seo and said that it was time for them to begin learning the techniques. The first technique was the Thunder Fist, which required a punch that would throw lightning. The next technique is the Floating Cloud. It helps you move without making a sound and without leaving traces. The teacher worked with the student until late in the evening. Yun Seo understood that these were only the basics, but they could not be neglected. Thunder Fist will replace Yun Seo's main technique of the dark arts, Thousand Palms, inspired by the Asuras. The Floating Cloud technique is very similar to the Ghost Step technique. So Yun Seo will improve the old technique with a new one. The teacher said that they were done for today and it was time for them to go home. Yun Seo needed to gather as much energy as possible. The next day arrived. Due to the changes that the heavenly lightning body technique brought to the body, it would be difficult for Yun Seo to use chi energy until he had fully mastered the basics. For several years, Yun Seo trained his physical strength and endurance. He had been waiting for a long time to learn from Dugu. Suddenly, Yun Seo notices a roll of paper on his desk. The letter tells Yun Seo to meet in 2 days in the slums of the northern part of the capital. There had been no news from them for 3 months, Yun Seo thought. The secret society of Hao is finally calling for a meeting. Yun Seo was tormented by thoughts about why it was taking so long. He assumed that perhaps they had an internal conflict. Yun Seo thought that they might be up to no good. After all, the method of exorcising demons was a pretty strong trump card that they wanted to get. The boy would hardly be able to defend himself if they attacked immediately after exorcising the demons from their youngest student. After an encounter with a bloodthirsty ghost demon, Yun Seo realizes that his past life experience is not a magic wand for all occasions. Currently, Yun Seo is unable to use the power due to his training in the white lightning body art, so he is currently practically powerless. Yun Seo decided that it wouldn't hurt to be careful, since they had arranged to meet in a deserted place, which meant they were clearly planning something. Yun Seo arrived at the appointed place. Suddenly, 3 unknown people appeared behind him and said that they were ordered to accompany him. The guy agreed and was escorted straight down the corridor. Then they brought him into a room. Yun Seo realized that this was a sick room. There was a distinct smell of medicine. Entering the room, Yun Seo was very surprised. A huge number of warriors had gathered around the sick boy. Judging from the appearance, Yun Seo realized that this squad seemed to have been attacked on the way there. Moreover, on the bed is the youngest disciple of the leader of the secret society of Chao. He is only 15 years old, but no one would guess it from his appearance. Yun Seo addressed the warriors and said that he had come here to drive out the demons from a boy. However, one of the warriors ordered Yun Seo not to move and said that they were attacked on the way. Yun Seo replied that he guessed, but did not understand what was being claimed against him. The warrior got angry and started shouting that those who attacked them knew who they were. Yun Seo didn't understand if they really thought he had set them up. They told the guy that he was the only one who knew about the meeting. Yun Seo replied that he didn't know when they would leave or which route they would take there. The warrior replied to Yun Seo that they could not trust him simply because he knew too much about their society. Yun Seo asked if they had decided to invite him to the meeting despite this. The guy advised them to think about what benefit he would gain from giving them away. The warrior replied that they were not fools, and that Yun Seo himself claimed that there was a cursed book written by a heavenly demon, hence the conclusion that Yun Seo himself is connected to this sect or close to it. Yun Seo realized that the ambush on the warriors of the House Society The accusations of connections with the demonic sect, everything was set up in such a way that it was impossible to suspect him. The culprit of the Chao Society disciple becoming possessed was the heavenly demon. He must have used such a trick so that his efforts would not go to waste. A secret society rarely shares its secrets, in which case it means that there's a traitor among their society. No one suspects that a spy of a demonic sect has infiltrated the secret society. He has arranged it so that the cursed book will fall into the right hands. The warrior told Yun Seo that if he remained silent, they were right. Yun Seo swore that he was not a member of the demonic cult. The warrior replied that he could not prove anything with words. Yun Seo suggested that they talk after he healed the student. The warrior replied that he could not trust his comrade's life to the enemy. He said that he would take Yun Seo hostage and make a deal with the heavenly demon. Yun Seo replied that he had agreed to save the student's life in exchange for information, and told the warrior to shove his accusations to hell. Yun Seo would not tolerate this nonsense. The warrior told Yun so that he should at least try to get closer to the lady. Even though they were wounded, they would cope with him together. Yun Seo said that he didn't mean to let things get to this point and asked someone to come out from under the ceiling. The warriors saw that this was the technique of air stepping. They recognized the Supreme Master and did not know how to proceed further. Dugu asked what to do with them. Yun Seo replied that he was their customer, so he didn't need victims. It would be enough to simply neutralize them. But Yun Seo clarified that he needed this girl and she should not be harmed in any way during the fight. The warriors set themselves the goal of protecting the young student. However, none of them managed to make a move. With the force of the wind, Master Dugu pressed on their acupuncture points and paralyzed their bodies. Yun Seo admired the incredible strength of his teacher. In the blink of an eye, and without much effort, Dugu neutralized all the warriors. They stood motionless. One of the warriors began to say that they would not get away with this so easily. If the leader of the secret society found out, he would send assassins. Yun Seo replied that they were merely paralyzed so that he could fulfill his part of the deal. The boy ordered the warrior to calm down and watch. Yun Seo approached the girl's bed and saw the very same book next to it. The Great Art of Divine Union. That was the title of the book. These books caused the demonic possession of prominent Buddhist warriors, the Murima. Yun Seo remembered this book from his past life very well. The guy decided to start. Fortunately, the girl's veins had not yet succumbed to reproduction. Yun Seo knew that although it was dangerous to forcibly bring the patient back to consciousness in this situation, he had no other way to communicate with her. The girl came to her senses. Yun Seo knew that obsession could not be overcome without the patient's own desire. The guy helped her sit up. Yun Seo asked if she could hear him, but the girl didn't respond to anything. Yun Seo told her that they had very little time, and if she wanted to survive, she needed to move the energy along the path that Yun Seo would show her. The guy warned the girl that she should under no circumstances give up or lose consciousness until they finished. Yun Seo noticed that her chi energy center had shrunk to a pitiful size, and her chakras were constricted and full of muddy energy. The guy understood that if something happened during the ritual, he would be branded as an agent of the demonic sect for the rest of his life, and the secret society of Chao would declare war on him. Dugu asked if he needed any help. Yun Seo replied that it was hard to explain, but only he could handle it. Yun Seo asked the teacher not to worry because it would not require much effort from him. This student was possessed because she practiced a corrupted technique to increase the potential of chi energy. The leader of the demonic sect wrote his martial arts manual in such a way that the poisonous meaning of false practices was hidden between the lines. And indeed, most masters did not suspect anything bad. The use of the practice of increasing the potential of chi from this book leads to the accumulation of toxic energy. As a result, this internal decay opens the way for demonic forces and the person becomes possessed. The method of exorcism is simple. It is necessary to show the possessed person the correct way to create chi energy, which only the heavenly demon and his disciples know. Yun Seo did great. She finally overcame her obsession, incredible willpower. The teacher praised his student for his good result. Yun Seo thanked the teacher in return for removing all the obstacles in his way. At this time, the girl's body emitted a terrible stench. This was the poison coming out and leaving her body. Yun So understood that she needed to be washed so that the poison would not be absorbed into the body again. The guy began to undress the girl. The warrior saw this and became very angry. The teacher also told Yun Seo that it was shameless to undress a girl like that. Yun Seo replied that now was not the time for such comments. Yun So told the warrior and teacher that if the girl's body was not cleansed of poison, the effect of the energy cleansing would only be half. While washing, Yun Seo involuntarily noticed some details on the girl's body. A mole on her collarbone, a scar on her side. Yun Seo finished and said that the possession cannot be cured in one go, so they will have to bring the girl to the place and time specified by him. The warrior asked a question. He asked Yun Seo how he was related to the leader of the demonic sect. Yun Seo replied that he could definitely say that he was not a member of a demonic sect. But the boy told him that if he wanted to know how he knew the method of exorcising demons, he should remember that in the secret society of Chao, they know better than anyone what secrets are worth. Therefore, he told the warrior not to try to ask him for such a valuable commodity for free. Yun Seo also added that when they see their leader, they should tell him that he is indebted to Yun Seo after today's incident. On the way home, Yun Seo began to thank the teacher for helping him. Otherwise, the boy would have gotten into trouble without a teacher. However, Yun Seo was tormented by thoughts about how he had called the teacher for help in such a situation and whether he should now explain himself. The guy began to worry that Dugu might suspect that he was an agent of a demonic sect, or suddenly the teacher will think that the kidnapping of his son and his rescue was not accidental, but was a skillfully staged performance. Suddenly, Dugu asked Yun Seo what he was worried about. The boy replied that he simply did not understand why the teacher did not ask anything. The teacher didn't understand what Yun Seo meant. The boy said that it would be logical to ask what relation he had to the leader of the demonic sect. Then the teacher turned to Yun Seo and asked with a stern look if he was a follower of the demonic sect. Yun Seo replied that of course not. Then the teacher asked if Yun Seo had tried to gain his trust by deceiving him. Yun Seo denied it. Then the teacher said that there was no problem and that he trusted and believed him because he himself had heard, seen, and felt. Yun Seo was simply shocked by the words he heard. The teacher told him to stop looking like that and go get something to eat. Yun Seo realized that he had never met anyone like his teacher before and wondered what he could tell him about his return to the past. Yun Seo promised himself that one day he would tell his teacher everything about his past from the very birth, without hiding or concealing details. 2 years have passed since then. Yun So studied with his teacher as usual and explored new boundaries. The teacher told Yun So that he had already taught him the basics of the white lightning body art, so he could continue to build up his chi potential on his own. Yun Seo was very happy about this news, because the very day he had been waiting for 2 whole years had arrived. The teacher told Yun So that in order to take the elixir and fully absorb the energy, one must concentrate thoroughly. Yun So immediately put the elixir in his mouth. The teacher asked how he felt. Yun So realized that it was the elixir of the small circle and that it gave amazing energy. In his past life, Yun So had taken many elixirs and knew that it was easy as long as no one interfered. The boy was calm because he was under the protection of a teacher and was confident that he would not lose a drop of energy. Yun Seo's veins withstood the powerful surge of energy from the small circle elixir. This is the result of practicing the art of the white lightning body. The teacher noticed that Yun So wanted to roll the energy of the elixir from the wheel of great bliss to the wheel of maintaining bliss. Teacher Dugu was surprised by what he saw. Yun Seo's chi energy was pouring over the edge, a breathtaking sight. Yun Seo, filled with energy, came to his senses and used the thunder fist technique. The teacher was very impressed. Now Yun Seo knew that using powerful techniques would not cause him any damage to his internal organs. Yun Seo thanked the teacher for guarding him. The teacher suggested that he visit the Tang clan after he finished absorbing the elixir's energy. Yunseo asked why this was necessary. The teacher replied that he would explain later. Yunseo was slightly nervous from the premonition. The guy went home and slowly thought about how he needed to absorb half of the 60s circle of chi energy. However, Yunseo noticed that someone was following him and was surprised that he hadn't noticed it before. This man is so skilled at stealth that Yunseo wouldn't have even noticed him if it weren't for the recent increase in chi energy. Yunseo held out his sword and saw a girl standing in front of him. He asked who she was. The girl replied that she didn't think Yunseo would sense her presence. Yunseo told the girl that if she didn't introduce herself right away, he would think she had bad intentions. The girl replied that she was upset that Yunseo did not recognize her. The guy was surprised that they could be acquainted. The girl reminded the guy that she had asked him to address her informally, and that she thought that they were close to each other. After all, Yunseo had seen her even naked. Yunseo couldn't believe what he heard. Was it really her? And then he noticed a mole on the girl's collarbone. The girl took off her mask and introduced herself. Yunseo said he was glad to see her in good health and asked what brought her to him. The girl replied that she was driven by a feeling of gratitude, because if it were not for him, the girl would have died and the house society would have suffered greatly. Yunseo told her that for some reason the feeling of gratitude had been growing in her for a long time. For a whole year there had been no news or letter. The girl apologized and said that it was all because of the long road to recovery and self-acceptance. Yunseo said that the secret society of How hardly sent her to him just to say thank you, and he demanded to know why she came. Then the girl said that she had brought Yunseo a good proposal and promised that he would not regret the time spent. The girl said that they left a very bad impression, and the fact is that the How society stopped trusting her. They hide from the girl and get in touch only when they really need her. Yunseo asked why he should trust her. The girl replied that if he was worried about that incident 2 years ago, then she apologized, and that she couldn't write to Yunseo only because she had reasons. The guy said that she had many ways to contact him and not only through letters. The girl replied that the secret society of How has agents everywhere, and she tried to contact Yunseo. However, they were hindered by teacher Dugu. The girl sent people to Yun, so to convey words of gratitude, apologies, and gifts. But the teacher did not let them approach Yunseo. He told them that now was a very important period of training for his student, and they should not try to contact him. The girl also added that the teacher had given the go-ahead to meet Yunseo only yesterday. Yunseo realized that the teacher had been protecting him from the slightest danger until he could take the elixir. Yunseo replied that it seemed like there was a misunderstanding. The girl was glad that everything was cleared up and now she could pass on the offer from the House Society. The girl said that they wanted Yunseo to be their friend and suggested that they meet in 2 days' evening at the House of Heavenly Bliss. The boy agreed. The girl said that there was a famous courtesan there who was called the Maiden of Heavenly Bliss and asked if Yunseo wanted her to be present. Yunseo replied that he was not interested. The girl laughed and said that he was boring. Yunseo noticed that despite her long illness and mistraining, the girl possessed amazing abilities. Now Yunseo understood why the House Secret Society valued its youngest student so much and decided to see what the society wanted from him. 2 days later, Yunseo came to the House of Heavenly Bliss to find out what the secret society of How had prepared for him. Yunseo walked inside and was surprised that the place was quite large and crowded for a secret society of How. Suddenly a girl came up to the guy and said that she would walk him home. She introduced herself as An. Those around were shocked that the goddess of the House of Heavenly Bliss herself had descended to the first floor. Yunseo didn't understand this because he said that he wouldn't need her and that her presence was unimportant. An asked the guy if he was perhaps uncomfortable with her escorting him. Yunseo answered, "Honestly, that's how it is." Yunseo said that he didn't want to attract too much attention to himself, so he wanted someone else to conduct it. Yunseo thought that Un might be doing him a favor as a thank you, but he didn't need any extra attention. Yunseo knew that if his name was spread by word of mouth, his teacher might get into trouble. If Yun Seo had known this would happen, he would have put on a mask or a bamboo hat. The boy was finally led to the room. Yun So entered the room and was met by the girl again and asked to sit down. The guy didn't like it. He said that he didn't need these girls. The girl told Yun Seo that before they could start talking, they needed to introduce themselves to each other properly. She gave her name, John. The girl thanked Yun Seo for saving her life and took off her mask. Then the guy recognized the young student of the leader of the secret society, Hao. Yun Seo asked if they could take off their veils. The girl replied that after meeting, isn't it considered polite to take off your veil? Zhang added that besides, Yun Seo had already seen her face many times, and there was no need for a veil now. Yun Seo said that all this inappropriate respectful speech sounded creepy. The girl laughed and said that she thought so too. Yun asked her if it was possible for members of society to reveal their identity so easily. Just like 2 days ago, she also showed her face. The girl confirmed and said that she could not reveal any information to him without the leader's consent. Zhang added that it wasn't just that she showed her face like that. She put her whole soul into this makeup. Yun Seo replied that he had had enough of all these jokes. The girl called him a bore and said that naturally the leader gave her permission. He wanted to pay the guy back. Then Yun So asked what kind of reward they would give him, and Zhang replied that he was too impatient. The girl gathered her courage and told Yun Seo that from now on, she was officially his personal assistant. Yun Seo looked at her strangely and asked if that was all. The girl didn't like this reaction. The girl indignantly began to say that mere mortals could rarely afford an assistant, and that now he could afford all the necessary information without the need to seek out the Chao society. And she added that all information would come directly from the top of society. John said that Yun Seo could pretend to be happy because the leader decided to treat him as a special customer, despite many people being against it. Yun So replied that there would certainly be fewer worries now, but asked why she was appointed as an assistant. Weren't there other people? Chan replied that they already knew each other, and the other person would have to get to know him all over again. And she added that they were so close to each other. Yun Seo was indignant and said that he had not even touched her with rare exceptions. Zhang said that if he felt uncomfortable and thought she was spying on him, he could refuse her services at any time and she would talk to the leader at the other reward. Yun Seo replied that he didn't care at all. In fact, the guy had no reason to refuse, especially since information from society is very valuable. Yun Seo knew that he would be able to find out what had changed since his previous life, and what he himself had not yet figured out. In addition, he would be able to control all the information himself. However, Yun Seo didn't know whether the leader had decided to tie up his student as a reward or whether he had ulterior motives. Zhang asked if it would be enough to pay off the debt. Yun Seo confirmed it. The girl said she would be happy to serve him. It had been 20 days since John had met the leader. Yun Seo hadn't heard from her since then. Yun Seo thought that perhaps the leader had changed his mind, since it was very difficult to predict his thoughts, so it was quite possible. While Yun Seo was thinking about his own things, he unwittingly witnessed someone calling one of the students to have lunch on the weekend. Each of the students lost their minds over the girl and said how beautiful she was. However, one of the girls was clearly unhappy because this new girl had already become the second best student in academic performance. Yun Seo became curious about where the new student came from and noticed that she was walking in his direction. The girl started running towards the guy and screaming, Yun Seo's brother. And then Yun So realized it was Chan, but he didn't understand why she had come. After everyone left, John told Yun Seo that the teacher allowed her to be there after she said that she became his assistant. Zhang started calling Yun Seo her brother, but the guy asked her not to call him that because she was not officially studying there. Yun Seo asked her to leave because he needed to train and didn't have time. Chan offered him in return to spar with an experienced fighter like her. Yun So realized that the girl was trying to find out what level her fighting skills were. The guy even liked it. He hadn't met a strong enough opponent since the battle with the bloodthirsty ghost demon. Yun So just wanted to check how much his skills had improved, and how good were the skills of the house society leader's disciple. Yun So suggested that the girl start. John was not at all against it, and even found it amusing. The fight began. Yun-So was surprised by the girl's skills. She very quickly repelled all the guy's attacks. Zhang was certain that there was no one among her peers who was stronger than her. However, she didn't understand why she couldn't even hit Yun-So with a sword. Yun-So noticed that Zhang was already exhausted and mockingly told the girl that he would now fight with all his might. Zhang was very angry at what she heard and gained new strength. Yun-So used the Moon Shadow Sword. Zhang was shocked. Her sword broke. The girl didn't know how to react. Yun-So reminded her that he was the same age as her. It seemed to Chan that she had no equal among her peers. The girl's pride was broken. Yun-So told her that vain people are the first to die in battle. Zhang asked her not to say such cruel things. The girl asked if Yun-So acknowledged that he had worthy rivals among his peers. The guy replied that he did not. Yun-So knew that the course of a real fight could not be predicted, but he would never lose. Even in his past life, he had no equal among his peers. He lived in a world where you either kill or are killed. Therefore, he had no right to lose to other martial artists. Zhang told Yun-So that if he was confident in his abilities, then why not take part in the Flame Phoenix competition? Yun-So thought about the girl's words and seemed to be lost in thought for several minutes. He didn't even respond to the girl's questions. After that, Yun-So said that he had training and it was time for him to go. The girl got angry and asked if their training wasn't enough for him. A few days later, Yun-So was just going to have lunch with his teacher, but Zhang tagged along with him again. The girl told Yun-So that this was a great opportunity for her to get to know the teacher's personality better, since Yun-So didn't want to tell her anything. The guy didn't expect anything else from a member of the house society. The girl told the guy that why doesn't he tell everything himself? She wondered why such a strong warrior was working with an ordinary teacher. Yun-So replied that he couldn't tell her. Chan didn't understand why the two of them had so many secrets. Master Duga moved out as soon as his son returned home. The evil heavenly king is now constantly looking for teacher Dugu. Therefore, there is no safer place than Mount Zhongxian. They finally arrived at the teacher's house. Mrs. Moon had prepared an incredible dinner. Zhang was constantly praising it and saying that she had never eaten anything more delicious. Suddenly, Dugu stood up from the table. Yun-So asked where he was going. The teacher said that the food needed appropriate alcohol. Yun-So said that he would accompany the teacher and would not mind going for a walk. The teacher did not object. The guy asked Dugu why he, a man who doesn't drink alcohol, suddenly decided to bring it. Teacher Dugu replied that he had not completely given up alcohol, but was simply drinking in smaller quantities. Yun-So realized that the teacher seemed to feel guilty towards his family because of the incident with his son. Dugu said that his wife had given up a lot for him. He wanted to give her a rich life, but not everything in this world happens the way he wanted. No matter how strong a warrior Dugu is, he is still a human, even while he is with his family. He can't protect her from all the demon warriors. For the safety of his family, Dugu literally locked them up on Mount Zhongxian. But even there, he does not feel safe as he diligently trains his son until the evil heavenly king is killed or Dugu completely heals his body. He will not be able to live a single day without fear. Teacher Dugu came out of the shed and said that this alcohol was from the province. And then Yun-So reminded the teacher that he had not yet given him anything for the housewarming. The teacher was surprised and said that they had moved a long time ago, and why Yun-So remembered this and what he had planned. Yun-So promised that he would like it. They returned to the table, had a pleasant time, and went home. Late at night, Zhang met with Yun-So. The boy asked Zhang to deliver a message to the leader of the trading organization. Zhang asked again if this was the organization that had expanded so much recently. Yun-So confirmed it and said that the payment would be information. Zhang was surprised and asked what the information was. Yun-So said that the eldest son of the leader of the trading organization was possessed by a spirit during training. Chan could believe what she heard, but she was absolutely sure that a demonic sect was involved in this. Yun-So asked her to tell him to find him if he wanted to save his son. Zhang asked Yun-So how he knew that the son of the leader of the trading organization had fallen victim to an evil spirit. Yun-So replied that she really didn't want to get the information for free. Zhang said that the trading organization was in Zhenjiang province. The journey would be long, and asked Yun Seo to wait for her. Yun Seo thanked her and asked them to take martial arts books with them. The YN Trading Organization is set to become one of the most influential organizations in the near future. In a previous life, the evil Heavenly King healed the YN leader's son and then took over the entire organization. And this time, Yun Seo decided that he would heal his son and make the trading organization his own. The evil spirit that struck the son of the head of the trading organization is called the Demon of Scarlet Flowers and comes from the fire, powered by the power of yang energy. This spirit can only be defeated by using the divine attack of yin energy. It will be a good gift for the master. Suddenly, Zhang appeared behind Yun Seo. She started shouting that the goddess had been kidnapped. Yun Seo asked if it was really the goddess of the house of heavenly bliss. The guy also asked why the secret society was concerned about this. Then Chan said that she was also a member of the secret society. Yun Seo did not understand why Zhang was asking him for help and not another member of society. The girl replied that she did not have time to wait for the Hao fighters to be sent. The guy told Chan that she was one of the best students. Couldn't she handle it herself? The girl explained that if she acted alone, her chances would be less. Yun Seo realized that if Zhang was asking for help in a hurry, it meant that this goddess was a special person in the Hao society. The guy agreed to help. On the way, Chan told him that the kidnapper was one of the most famous martial arts masters in the province, nicknamed the Poisonous Sword, and that the Poisonous Sword had been courting the goddess for quite some time. Yun Seo didn't understand how such a famous warrior could openly kidnap a man. Chan said that all the warriors from this province pretend to be noble, but behind everyone's back they commit terrible acts. The girl also said that maybe someone else also wants to harm the Hao society. Yun Seo asked who it could be. Chan said that there is a man who defeated the Plum Blossom Swordmaster, a transcendental warrior. He wields his sword with the speed and precision of a snake. His powers are comparable only to those of a demon. There are not many good warriors in the Chao society, except for those close to power, so it will be quite difficult to deal with such a warrior. Chan said that the first thing to do was to rescue the kidnapped people and work together. The girl gave Yun Seo a signal fire and said that if one of them discovered it first, she would set it on fire and then attack together. Yun Seo asked if Zhang would leave him without payment. The girl said not to worry about it, and that she would pay him back in full. Then Yun Seo asked the girl for a mask if she had an extra one, since he didn't want to stand out. The girl said she did and gave him the mask, saying that this could be considered the first indirect kiss. Yun Seo replied that it was okay and that he would put the mask on the other side and throw it away after use. At this time, the goddess of the house of heavenly bliss could not feel her body below the neck. She realized that the kidnapper had cast a blood curse. The girl woke up and the poisonous sword noticed it. The goddess told him that he would regret what he had done and that warriors would come there soon. The poisonous sword began to laugh and said that it was stupid. Why would a warrior save a courtesan? And also added that he was prepared. The poisonous sword said that the girl had better go to meet him because all the hidden paths there were already well protected. He also added that it would be better for her to surrender herself, since he was going to be her husband. Suddenly, Yun Seo entered the room, or rather, he punched the wall. Poison Sword was surprised how he did it without using a sword. Poison Sword realized that this was not just an ordinary warrior and asked if he had come to save the girl. Yun Seo started screaming that the old man had tried to court a young girl and then decided to kidnap her because she rejected him. Yun Seo said that this disgrace must be corrected. Poison Sword began to laugh and said that Yun Seo really wants to die. Poison Sword said that Yun Seo reminded him of a certain sucker who ran into his sword and then begged on his knees for mercy. The battle began, and the poisonous sword's confidence had already disappeared. Yun Seo managed to parry every blow. Yun Seo, in turn, noted that the poisonous sword was indeed as strong and fast as they said. Yun Seo knew that such martial skills were not taught even in prestigious schools and ancient scrolls and libraries. This sword was tempered in battle, and the art was perfected in battle. But Yun Seo decided that since this was the case, it was the perfect opportunity to use the white lightning attack. Poison Sword noticed that Yun Seo was attacking quickly even without illusions. If he had delayed, even a little, he would have lost his head. Yun Seo told the Poisonous Sword that he must have abandoned his training after reaching the top, since he couldn't even repel such a childish attack. This angered the Poison Sword, and it began to attack. Yun Seo saw that he had managed to irritate his opponent in just a few seconds and decided to end it. Yun Seo ridiculed the Poison Sword. He didn't understand how the elder of the society would use a cheap trap attack. Could this technique really work against the Plum Blossom Sword? However, Yun Seo knew that if he didn't make it in time, he would be finished. The Poison Sword lay stricken on the ground. Suddenly, Yun Seo noticed something interesting sticking out of his pocket. Yun Seo took out the tablet and realized that it was the emblem of an elite squad of evil spirits. He didn't understand why the elder of another squad was carrying it with him. Then Yun Seo decided to ask the Poisonous Sword what it was, where he got it from, and if he knew its meaning. Poison Sword said that he wouldn't tell him anything, so Yun Seo said that he would force him to tell. Yun so warned that he might slightly miscalculate the strength, and he also asked where the Poisonous Sword came from. Poison Sword couldn't stand the pressure and said that he had taken the leader of the Sook clan. Yun Seo asked what clan it was. Sword replied that this clan was gaining more and more influence in Sichuan. The boy realized that the clan whose power was growing was connected to the Evil Spirit Squad. The boy asked the Sword how the clan leader was connected to the Evil Spirit Squad. Poison Sword told the guy that he didn't know anything and that he only helped him with a couple of tasks. Yun Seo then asked if the clan was actually a demonic sect posing as a Buddhist sect. Poison Sword replied that this was most likely not the case, as the leader did not treat this squad very well. Yun Seo said that it meant that they were in a bad relationship. However, the Sword replied that it wasn't bad, they were just using each other. Poison Sword said that he doesn't know everything, but the trade between them is for quite large sums. But their ties were severed after the Buddhist faction absorbed a demonic troop. Yun Seo didn't understand what this demon was doing in Sichuan. Suddenly, Zhang appeared and said that she had told him to give a signal when he found the sword. Yun Seo replied that he did not have time for that, since the situation was quite dangerous. Chan asked him to be honest and admit that he had deliberately not signaled her. Yun Seo replied that everything ended well in the end, and since they saved the goddess, he would go. The goddess thanked Yun Seo for saving her. The boy replied that it was a simple transaction and the house society would return the favor. John couldn't believe that Yun Seo had dealt with the Poisonous Sword on his own and thought of him as a monster. At this time, Yun Seo was thinking about the connection between the Sook clan and the ghost demon, something he didn't know about even in his past life. The guy decided to find out everything, but he didn't know if he would be able to extract information from the leader of the Sook clan. Yun Seo arrived at the clan's location. There is a pact between the clan and the bloodthirsty demon. However, it was broken when the ghost demon fell into the hands of the Qingshan faction. Therefore, the money left after the deal was broken is now in the hands of the clan Sook. The guards were standing at the entrance to the clan's establishment. It was time for the guards to change, but their replacements had not yet arrived. They thought that maybe they had decided to have a smoke before leaving. One of the guards began to say that even during the state of emergency, these tobacco addicts had become brazen. Suddenly, Yun Seo appeared behind them and eliminated this obstacle in his path. Yun Seo knew that he wasn't that good at stealth, and if he tried to invade during a state of emergency and made a mistake, he would have to fight the entire clan. The guy decided to disguise himself and go after the clan leader before someone discovered the unconscious guards. Yun Seo saw that the state of emergency had caused a commotion, and it was unlikely that they had declared it because the goddess had been kidnapped by a poisonous snake. The guy didn't understand what else this clan was involved in. He approached one of the buildings, and judging by the way they were guarding it, the leader must be there. Yun Seo decided to check it out and went straight to the guards. They stopped the guy, and he said that he urgently needed to meet the leader. The guards asked what was going on. Yun Seo said that a poisonous snake had been caught. Hearing this, the guards decided to immediately inform the leader. Yun Seo thought that everything was quite simpler than he thought, and then the clan swordmaster appeared before him. The master asked Yun Seo who had caught the poison sword. Without thinking twice, Yun Seo replied that it was the House Society. Then the master said that it meant that in the House Society there was someone who could defeat the poisonous snake. Yun Seo replied that he heard that a disciple of the House Society helped them. The master said that if it was the disciple of the leader of the House Society, then it was quite possible. Yun Seo wanted to add that he had more to tell. But before he could say a word, the master replied that a detachment of clan swords was watching the poisonous snake. The master sternly asked Yun Seo who he was and how he knew all this, and he threatened to tell only the truth. Yun Seo hoped that everything would go smoothly. But of course, everything did not go as planned. Yun Seo took out his sword. The master thought that the boy was eager to die. Yun Seo knew that of course the clan sword master had great strength. Seeing Yun Seo's sword energy being used, the opponent ordered the guards to escort the master to a safe place and line up. Yun Seo was surprised that all that could be expected from them was a pathetic formation that would clearly not help them. Yun Seo saw that they wanted to wear him down with attacks and movements, but he couldn't just block their attacks. The boy knew that if he hesitated, other clan warriors would soon arrive here. So he decided to spend a lot of chi energy at once. At this time, the clan leader was nearby. He was angry at the poisoned sword, as he told him not to touch the goddess, because the House of Heavenly Bliss controls the Chow Society. The leader was dissatisfied with so many troubles, because they were not satisfied with the ghost demon who betrayed them to the King Qingshan faction. The leader assumed that now the Chow Society would think that he had instigated the sword to kidnap the goddess. At this time, the leader's guards reminded them that they needed to run while the warriors distracted the robber. Suddenly, Yun Seo appeared. The guards shouted at the leader not to be afraid and that they would handle Yun Seo. The leader tried to stop the guards, but it was too late. However, he did not expect Yun Seo to deal with them so quickly. And then the leader fell to his knees and began to say that they did not kidnap the goddess, and that the poisonous sword itself did all this. However, Yun Seo said that he had many questions for him about the evil spirit squad, the ghost demon. The boy took out a small board and said that he had taken it from a poisonous snake. And he added that the poisonous snake had said that it belonged to the leader of the Sok clan. Seeing this, the leader jumped back. He wondered how the guy managed to take the sign. Yun Seo reminded him that if he did something stupid, he would be finished. The leader said that there was no nonsense, and he just wanted to get rid of what would not be useful during their conversation. Yun Seo chained the leader and began interrogating him. He asked the leader what his connection was with the ghost demon. The leader didn't want to talk, so Yun Seo took out his sword. Then the leader revealed that they had made a deal with him. The ghost demon wanted to increase his wealth. The leader asked him if he wanted to start his own business, as he asked for money. Yun Seo began to wonder if the crazy old man had stolen the money he had received from the leader and spent it on military needs. Yun Seo started yelling at the leader that he had no idea what the demon needed the money for. The leader replied that he had no choice. Indeed, Yun Seo knew that if the leader refused the demon would destroy him. Then Yun Seo told the leader that if he received an offer from the Zhongxian faction, he would have to say that he would do anything. The leader began to beg for mercy. Yun Seo replied that he had his own principles and he did not come to punish the clan leader. Yun Seo also added that he is someone who has already dealt with the evil spirit squad and does not consider them to be a particular threat. Yun Seo also said that the ghost demon is already in the hands of the Buddhist factions, but the troubles from it are not over yet. Yun Seo took the book of accounts of the trade with the demon and said that he would keep their deal a secret, but in return he would return all the money that the ghost demon earned. The boy knew that no one would know how much money the ghost demon was receiving if the clan leader didn't talk. Yun Seo decided to empty their treasury first. Suddenly, the leader rose from his knees and swore allegiance to Yun Seo. Yun Seo didn't understand why he suddenly. The leader said that he always dreamed of creating a detachment of selfless warriors in his clan, but he couldn't defeat the evil spirits and lost. And now the leader repents and wants to follow only a noble warrior like Yun-So from now on. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about and what a noble warrior he was. The leader began to praise him, that he was a warrior who had defeated a ghost demon with his own strength. A warrior with a capital letter, who asked for nothing in return except traces of the demon's ghost. The leader continued. The leader said that he would now follow the noble warrior's footsteps. Yun-So ordered him to stop all this immediately. The leader then offered him to become the elder of their clan. Every month the clan would pay Yun-So for his valor, and also their soldiers would be at his disposal. Yun-So replied that if the leader really wanted it, he would not refuse, but he was not going to stay in this place. The leader didn't understand, because he could have so much power there. Yun-So replied that today's conversation would remain between them, and asked to cover up all traces. A few days later, Yun-So no longer cared about money, all because of the misunderstanding that happened between him and the leader of the Suk clan. He now had enough money to carry out his next plan. Suddenly, Chan came in and asked what he was working on so hard. Zhang gave Yun-So what he asked for and said that a gentleman from the Wyong Trade Organization was waiting for him. In the book that was given to him, Yun-So read about the art of the safflower. Fortunately, it is no different from the technique in Yun-So's memories. This technique is based on the exchange of chi energy. Having studied it, one can get rid of the leakage of internal energy into the environment. Zhang asked Yun-So if he understood what was written there. The guy replied that he understood and told them to go to the guest house. Zhang didn't even have time to read anything there. Yun-So is, as always, a hidden and incomprehensible type, the girl thought. Yun-So headed towards the head of the Wyong Trade Organization. The guy was even a little nervous before the meeting. After all, this man will become one of the most influential and rich merchants of the nearby plains in the future. Yun-So immediately said that he was not a doctor, but he knew exactly how to cure his sick son. The chief replied that it didn't matter to him who Yun-So was, the main thing was that he knew how to do it. The chief asked to tell him right now what was needed for this. Yun-So went to the sick man's room. The leader couldn't find a place for himself at this time. He didn't think it would take so long. Suddenly, Yun-So came out and said that the treatment was successful and the boy could get out of bed in 15 days. The leader felt a real sense of relief. He was very grateful to Yun-So and said that he would definitely repay him. But before proceeding to payment, the chief invited Yun-So to dinner. The chief asked the boy why such a talented person like him decided to cure his son. Yun-So replied that it was simply because his help was not needed by those who were only looking for profit. And a person's life on the scale of the big world is not some trifle. And besides, the leader was very worried about his son. The leader almost burst into tears and said that if it weren't for Yun-So, he would have lost his son. Yun-So replied that he did what he had to do. The leader said that he would do anything as a token of gratitude, and Yun-So could ask for whatever he wanted. Yun-So said he had something. The leader replied that no matter how big the amount was, he wouldn't begrudge anything. And suddenly Yun-So said that he needed spices and as much as possible. This shocked the head and Zhang. The chief asked the boy why he needed the spices. Yun-So replied that he would call it an investment in his old age. Yun-So knew that in the autumn of the following year, in the coastal territories of Zhejiang, the Wyong Trading Organization will be attacked by Japanese pirates, which will cause trade to suffer greatly. Because of this, the price of spices will skyrocket. These spices made the Wyong one of the 10 most influential trading organizations. And Yun-So decided that he would be the one to get rich from this, not the heavenly Dessen. The leader replied that it was not difficult for him at all, but he thought that Yun-So would ask for a monetary reward. However, Yun-So said that he still hasn't cured his son, so there's no need to rush with the reward. Yun-So knew he couldn't give up the golden goose right now. He decided he would build a long relationship with him to get what he needed. Then the chief extended his hand to Yun-So and gave him the thing. Yun-So asked what it was. The chief said that it was a sign of their organization's VIP clients. The chief said that only with this sign he would be able to deal with their merchants. Yun So asked if he was worthy of such a valuable thing. The leader replied that he should at least repay him somehow, and added that this was also his investment in Yun So. The leader of the Wyong trading organization invited Yun So to the organization's headquarters and returned to Zhejiang. Yun So knew that the wealth he would gain from the rise in spice prices would help him on his way to becoming one of the elders of the martial arts world. For this, the guy needs the help of a trading organization, and the sign will start it. In a past life, the leader of the sect was supposed to receive it. Yun So thought that this would upset him. Yun So had the house society and even the trade organization on his side. The sect leader would definitely notice these changes. The guy decided that he would need to lie low for a while. And then suddenly there was a blow from behind Yun So. Yun So started saying that he called him, saying that he had a conversation, and now he was attacking. After all, the attack could really hurt the guy. It was teacher Dugu who said that if he really attacked him, Yun So wouldn't be able to block it so easily. The teacher hoped that Yun So had mastered the art of the heavenly lightning body. But the boy replied that he had not completely mastered it, and now he could only use it when absolutely necessary. The teacher suggested that the boy try breathing chi energy, then Yun So would be able to feel what level he was at. Yun decided to try. He only opened the breath of internal energy, but his whole body felt negative energy. The teacher explained that there was nothing surprising, since white lightning is a powerful weapon in itself, but it can also act as a defense. This is the god of lightning. Yun So was surprised. The teacher explained that this could be called the stage of white lightning. When you fully master this art, you understand how to use it. Yun So was able to get rid of all the negative energy thanks to this, and realized that with white lightning, something similar could be done. The teacher said that not everyone can do it. Many could not reach the stage of the god of lightning. Yun So was surprised, isn't this just the body reaching a new level? Dugu explained that the body could become stronger through the white lightning art, but it was nothing compared to the body improvements of martial artists. Yun So realized that considering the Fist King's power in his past life, this sounded like the truth. At this rate, Yun So would quickly regain the strength from his past life. Teacher Dugu said that since Yun So had already mastered the basics of this technique, they should go. Yun So did not understand where they should go. The teacher reminded him that he said that they would go to one place as soon as Yun So mastered the basics. The teacher said that this place is the Tang clan. Then Yun So remembered that Dugu had indeed promised this. The Tang clan is the great clan of the Murim, the first of the 5 great clans. The home of those obsessed with martial arts, feared by all Murim. They are also good at poisons, hidden weapons, and other strange devices. Yun So knew that if he crossed them, he wouldn't be able to just die. However, even though the clan had intimidated the others, their hostility seemed too much for Yun So. The teacher told the boy not to pay attention to them because they were closed in on themselves and did not like to show emotions. The Tang clan that Yun So had known his time was full of narrow-minded cowards, so his teacher's words surprised him. The teacher was greeted warmly by the girl who said that they were glad to see him. Dugu introduced Yun So as a student. Yun So said he was glad to meet her. The girl replied that she had wanted to meet him for a long time and gave her name as Tan. Yun So was curious about the girl's name. According to the house society's information about the ghost demon, he was not related to this family. The leader of the Tang clan and the Tang girl often contact each other. Yun So realized that she was the daughter of the Tang leader, who had previously been in contact with the teacher. But Tan said that she wanted to meet Yun So. The guy did not understand how she knew him. Unlike other warriors of the clan, she seemed friendly to him. The girl told them that the leader was already waiting for them. Yun So decided that no matter what, he would not let his guard down. The teacher and Yun So entered. The leader said that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. Yun So realized that this was the future king of poison. When Yun So saw him on the battlefield, he didn't feel any negative energy from him, and if Yun So didn't know him, he would have thought that he was a Buddhist warrior. However, Yun Seo understood that they were the future king of strength and the king of poison. It was strange to see monsters from the past life together now. Teacher Dugu told the clan leader that he had come to him with a request. The leader replied that he would listen carefully. Dugu said that he knew that his request was too great, but it was very necessary for his student. The teacher asked for an elixir against 1,000 poisons. Yun So was simply shocked by what he heard. Yun Seo knew that this was the secret elixir of the Tang clan. It was unbelievable that the teacher would ask for such a thing. The leader began to laugh loudly and said that without his supervision, the student had become a complete idiot. But then the leader agreed and said that he would give Doug what he needed. The teacher thanked him and promised to repay the debt. Yun Seo couldn't believe this was happening. The clan leader said how could he refuse the one who saved his daughter's life. Yun Seo didn't know what they were talking about, but if the teacher saved the clan leader's daughter, then he understood why he agreed. The leader reminded that in order to take the elixir, a warrior must reach the peak level, and his skills must be extraordinary. The leader asked Yun Seo how old he was, and the boy replied that he had recently turned 17. The leader was surprised that he and his daughter were only 2 years apart, and said it was incredible to reach the peak level at that age. With one wave of his hand, the clan leader sent poisonous snakes towards Yun Seo. This was his way of testing the boy. The leader was greatly surprised by Yun Seo's skills and asked his daughter to take the guest to the best pharmacist. The girl led them to the right place and said that only members of the Tan family could visit this pharmacist, so she would go alone. The girl left. Yun Seo decided to take advantage of the opportunity and asked the teacher why he needed the elixir. The teacher told him not to blab, because it was all for his own improvement and well-being. Yun Seo started screaming that it was poison and it was toxic. If you rushed and took it, you could die. The teacher started laughing and told Yun Seo not to worry because he had reached the required level, so he would be able to get rid of this poison. Yun Seo exhaled. The teacher said that, of course, he would have to endure the pain and side effects. Suddenly, Tan interrupted them and said that she had brought the elixir. The girl told Yun Seo that he needed to come for the elixir every 2 weeks for 2 years. The girl also added that she had a request for Teacher Doug. The teacher agreed to listen. The girl said that she wanted to fight with Yun Seo. Suddenly, Yun Seo felt a strange energy from her. The boy sensed the poison. To enhance one's fighting skills, consuming poison is a secret of the Tang clan, known only to family members. However, it is rare to find women who use this technique, as the poison makes it impossible for them to have children. Yun Seo realized that the glint in her eyes was the result of using poison, and said that he didn't want to fight her. The girl asked the reason for the refusal. Yun Seo replied that by defeating him, she would not get anything. All the poisonous people Yun Seo met in his past life were crazy. The idea of using poison to increase his strength seemed strange. Yun Seo didn't know how she became poisonous, but he knew that she would also lose her mind. And then he thought that there was nothing wrong with sparring with the daughter of the Tang clan leader. Yun Seo suggested the girl to place bets for gambling. The girl replied that she had exactly what to place. The guy said that he had enough elixir. Tan said that he would definitely like it, and she would give it to him if he managed to win. Yun Seo knew they were now on roughly the same level. He was thinking about giving up the prize, whatever it was. But then he saw something in the girl's hands. Guja had made 5 swords in the last years of his life, and this was one of them. The prize was too valuable to refuse. The master of the previous generation who made the best swords in history, the best swordsmith in Zhengzhou, Guja. He put his whole soul into making 5 swords and then died. Each sword has its own name. Heavenly Palace, Victory or Death, King of the Seas, Pure Word, and the Path of Courage, which was now in the hands of the daughter of the leader of the Tang clan. Yun Seo knew that for any warrior, this sword was such a valuable weapon that one could risk one's life. Yun Seo asked the girl if she was allowed to make such a bet. The girl replied that she would not have bet the sword if he had not agreed to spar. Yun Seo asked if there was another reason. Tan said that she was asking him about it because he was her benefactor's disciple. Yun Seo didn't understand what this had to do with it. The girl explained that her benefactor's disciple must be very strong. Yun Seo wondered if she just wanted to win him over, and it seemed like she wouldn't answer his questions anymore. The boy told Tan that this was all well and good, but he had nothing that could even the bet with the sword. The girl replied that it didn't have to be a thing. Tan approached Doug and asked if she could win. Would the teacher fulfill her request? Master Dugu agreed to such a strange bet. Yun Seo didn't understand why Master Dugu in particular. Tan told Yun Seo that he needed more time to think it over. But the boy refused and said that if his teacher agreed, then he would accept the challenge. Yun Seo didn't know what the girl's motivation was, but he was more than sure that she would never give up. However, it didn't matter at all, since the sword that Yun Seo really wanted to get was at stake. Yun Seo knew that his opponent was a poisonous person, so he had to do everything possible to avoid being poisoned. The battle began. The fight was exciting. The girl managed to scratch the guy, and he thought it might be poison. However, it turned out that the art of white lightning should protect against poison. Yun Seo was calm. It wasn't that Yun Seo agreed to fight to evaluate her skills. The guy noticed that she certainly fought very hard. Therefore, Yun Seo had no choice but to use the 21st stage of the waning moon. Yun Seo asked the girl why she was fighting so desperately. He asked her to give an answer immediately. Suddenly, the girl pulled out a hairpin from her hair. It was a soul butterfly, used for the dark stealth attacks of the Tang clan. The girl went on the attack. If Yun Seo hadn't made it in time, he would have been in big trouble. Tan poisoned him. Yun Seo knew he had to act quickly to avoid losing his mind. The girl was shocked and knew that she had to end the fight before he expelled all the poison from himself. Yun Seo gathered his strength and struck the 23rd stage of the water moon. He was victorious. The teacher declared him the winner. Yun Seo knew they were evenly matched, but if it weren't for the white lightning he used to heal himself from the poison, he might not have won. The guy approached the girl and asked if she was okay. He also said that he thought Tan was asking for a sparring match just to stroke her pride. Then he asked the girl what she was hiding, because he saw that she had put all her strength into this fight, and there must be another reason. Suddenly the teacher came and said that it must be because of him. Yun Seo did not understand what happened between them. The girl said that she was once kidnapped by a detachment of Huaneng, and the benefactor defeated them and saved her. Then, seeing his level of martial arts, the girl wanted to become his student, even if it required leaving her family. However, because she was proficient in the art of the Thunder Gate, the teacher did not accept her as a student. And when the girl saw Yun Seo in the role of Master Dugu's disciple, she almost died of envy. The girl apologized and said that because of her character, she caused Yun Seo a lot of inconvenience. The girl also apologized to Teacher Dugu and thanked Yun Seo for answering her challenge. Yun Seo asked the teacher why Tan didn't stop earlier. The teacher explained that perhaps she wanted to prove her strength to him by defeating him. The guy asked if she did it because she was desperate. Dugu said he was right, and he said that he rejected her not because she was a girl, but because she simply did not have the right qualities. Yun Seo realized that this girl had abandoned the path of a woman. She had chosen the path of loneliness. If he told her the truth now, it would hurt her even more. A few days later, Yun Seo invited Teacher Dugu to a meeting. The teacher asked what the meeting was about. Yun Seo reminded him that he had promised to congratulate him on his housewarming. The teacher laughed and said that the gift must be wonderful. And then Dugu saw that it was a book of prosperity. Yun Seo said that this technique is based on yang energy. It should help to overcome the energy barriers of heaven and earth. The teacher asked who gives books on improving technology as housewarming gifts. Yun Seo laughed and said that he does. Teacher Doug was truly pleased. Yun Seo said that it was nothing compared to what the teacher had done for him. Dugu replied that he did not deserve such a student. However, the teacher thought that there was something strange about this child. Another 2 years passed. The very last day came when Yun Seo went to the Tang clan to get the elixir. Yun Seo was glad that he would finally finish taking the elixir of 1,000 poisons. Thanks to this elixir he had recently, Yun Seo's internal energy has increased significantly, and he has mastered the white lightning technique to perfection. Therefore, as the name of the elixir suggests, most poisons no longer affect Yunseo. Yunseo thanked the girl Tan for providing him with the elixir and said goodbye. The girl smiled and said that they would see each other soon. Yunseo returned home and told John that he was leaving. The girl was shocked. Yunseo asked if she herself hadn't advised him to do this. Yunseo said that he should participate in the Flame Phoenix competition. Zhang said that he was arrogant. Yunseo said that she herself helped him carry out this plan. The Flame Phoenix competition is one of the largest Murima competitions, attended by the best warriors. As the winner, Yunseo will undermine the plans of the Heavenly Demon sect. This will be a great achievement that everyone will be forced to acknowledge. Yunseo knew that if he won this competition, he would take another step towards becoming a Murim elder. John asked if Yunseo would not tell her anything clearly again. Yunseo said that he would go to Zhejiang. He was going to go to the trading organization and meet with its leader. Zhang remembered that Yunseo had invested his money in them. And suddenly she asked Yunseo how he knew that the price of spices would skyrocket. Yunseo smiled and said that he actually knows how to predict the future from the stars. After some time, Yunseo and Zhang watched how the son of teacher Dugu was practicing. Yunseo saw that the boy really had talent. In his past life, he was supposed to die, but Yunseo saved him. The guy wanted to see how he would grow up. Everyone around already knew that Yunseo was leaving. Suddenly, Teacher Dugu's wife came and told Yunseo that it was time for lunch. Ms. Moon was worried about the guy leaving. The teacher calmed her down and asked her not to worry, as Yunseo can stand up for himself, and his skills are enough to enter the list of the best fighters. The teacher told Yunseo that he had become a true warrior, and so he himself thought of sending the boy to the competition. The teacher hoped that Yunseo would be able to achieve all the goals he had set for himself. The boy thanked the teacher and said goodbye. Yunseo felt that this was the real beginning. The boy asked to prepare the horses, and then suddenly Mrs. Tan came and said that she was glad to meet him. Yunseo didn't understand what was going on at all. The teacher had told him a few days ago that the leader of the Tang clan had asked him to let Zhang go to the competition with Yunseo. The teacher asked if Yunseo would be willing to accompany the girl. Yunseo replied that it would be a lot of trouble. Yunseo understood that even if the teacher was asking for it, he couldn't just agree to such unexpected proposals. So then Yunseo politely refused. And now the girl told Yunseo that she heard that he refused to fulfill his father's request. So she decided it would be appropriate to go and talk to Yunseo in person to clarify everything. The girl asked again if Yunseo would mind if she went with him under his responsibility. The optimistic Chan intervened. I told the guy that it would be more fun to go together, and besides, one head is good, but two and even three are even better. Chan added that Tang is from the Tang clan, so she is a martial artist. Moreover, she knows how to use poison and avoid traps, and it will be safer with her. Yunseo thought about it, and thought that it all sounded pretty convincing. He told the girl that he thought she would be a great help to them. Yunseo remembered the secret cave created by Guja, who was the best martial artist among the warriors of the previous generation. In the place where he spent his last years of life, he left all his acquired artifacts and treasures. In his past life, Yunseo discovered the cave only after 5 years. The cave contains a huge number of mechanisms and traps to protect the treasure from thieves. Because of this, it is almost impossible to get inside the cave. But with Tan, who knows how to avoid the trap, Yunseo will be able to get into the cave. So Yunseo invited Tan to come along with them. The girl was very happy about this and was very grateful. Chan introduced herself and told Tan that she could just call her sister without any formality. Tan replied that it was unusual for her, but if it was better this way, she hoped that they would get along well. Their journey was very peaceful. Yunseo remembered that he lost his previous life due to the betrayal of the Heavenly Demon sect, and he thought that this was the end for him. But reincarnation gave Yunseo a chance for a new life, to live a life different from the past, which was like hell, and to fulfill the dream of becoming a Murim elder. Yunseo spent 9 years of training for this day. This is the real beginning. He was very grateful to the bastards of the Heavenly Demon sect who gave Yun Seo another chance. In this life, he would repay them tenfold for their betrayal. The journey was long, and they decided to take a break. Chan had a nice conversation with Tan, and even bragged about what a beautiful new hairpin she had bought. Yun Seo watched from the sidelines, but he had no idea that Tan had such a feminine side. Suddenly, a crowd of strangers approached them and began to say how dare they stop in this place without Meng's permission. The leader said they would have to pay to drive on this road. Yun Seo thought, what kind of idiots are they? The car driver told him not to worry about anything and to return to the cart, and he would simply pay them. Yun Seo agreed. The driver came up to give him the money. The leader replied that it was good that he was so accommodating. Suddenly, one of the men approached the leader and said that the girls were pretty good, and maybe they should be taken with them. The leader replied that the idea was good, and before they took them away, they should be properly trained in a few things. Then the leader told the driver that the money was money, but they wanted to take those bitches with them. The driver said that he would pay them more, since they were just guests in these lands. Suddenly, the chieftain approached Tan and asked where she was going with her brother. Tan looked at him, and the chieftain was surprised at what this woman had with her face. The leader was upset and said that no one would marry this chick with such a face. Chan started shouting that they were too brave. But one of the men started shouting that yesterday they had picked up only a couple of girls in the city, and they needed more. The leader replied that he would definitely not marry her, but he could make her his concubine. After that, he shouted to his gang that today they would have 4 brides. Suddenly, a huge number of needles appeared in the leader's chest. The leader realized that they were poisonous and began to shout that this bitch was poisonous. His gang began to shout that they had killed their leader. Tan replied that they would not meet a peaceful death either. The bandits shouted that the bloody girl had killed their leader. They decided that they would never let her go alive. Tan replied that this was all very funny, of course, but not a single one of them would remain alive. The confident bandits attacked the girl, but the fight lasted no more than 10 seconds. In the end, not a single bandit remained alive. Yun Seo knew that Tan was a girl raised in a warlike family. She would never remain silent after such an insult. Even at the risk of their lives, their family always makes them pay in blood. No one goes unpunished. Tan dealt with the bandits and decided to help the wounded driver. At that moment, the leader woke up. He was about to attack the girl and destroy her. Yun Seo managed to react in time and protected Tan. Yun Seo was surprised because surviving the poison of the Tang clan was a great achievement for a bandit. And now he was covered in the leader's blood. Yun so asked the driver how much longer they had to go to the next settlement. The driver said that they had to go through a mountain, and if they drove without stopping, it would take several days. Yun Seo hated the feeling of blood on himself. Tan apologized to the guy and said that she should have prevented this misunderstanding. Yun Seo replied that no one could have predicted that this bandit would survive the poisoning. Then the girl said that she was embarrassed to ask, but she wanted Yun Seo to do her a small favor. The girl said that it seemed that these bandits had kidnapped women in the city. Yun Seo asked her if she wanted to save them. Tan said that she doesn't know if Yun Seo will help her, but after hearing this, she can't leave it like this, so she asked him for help. She also added that it would be difficult for Yun Seo, so she could handle it alone. The guy replied that this would not happen, and they would go together. Yun Seo asked the driver to go to Mangacapped. The driver agreed, and they set off. At this time, the robbers were pestering the girls. The creditor of the ManhwaCapped asked one of the hostages why she did not like his body. Suddenly, a servant entered the room and said that they were being stormed. The creditor was afraid that it was soldiers, but the servant said that it was not them. The servant said that they say that one man and one girl attack from different sides and cover the territory. The creditor calmed down and asked if he had really come to tell him that there were only 2 of them there, and he ordered that they be dealt with quickly. The servant said that he doesn't know about the guy, but the girl uses poison. Most likely she is from the Tang clan. The creditor got angry and asked why the clan needed them. The servant said that their guys ran into them when they were trying to collect tribute. The creditor said that even though she was from the Tang clan, there were only 2 of them. and he ordered the warriors to hit this girl. The servant asked what they should do with the boy. The creditor smiled maliciously and said that he would deal with him himself. Meanwhile, Yun Seo threatened the guard to take them inside. They refused, and Yun Seo said that he did not want to shed blood, but they left him no choice. Suddenly, the creditor burst out from behind the guards. He started shouting that Yun Seo was a puppy and how dare he break in there. Yun Seo replied that his men had attacked them and they had kidnapped the women. The creditor began to laugh and said that he had really come to save the girls. The guy replied that he would save them, and he also needed water to wash the blood of his people off his clothes. The creditor was furious and started shouting that Yun Seo had come there to wash himself. He also added that he was a warrior in the imperial army and survived the bloody battles. Yun Seo replied that this is why he will soon become a corpse. Yun Seo did not stand on ceremony with the creditor and destroyed him. Everyone around saw that their leader was dead. Ten also saw Yun Seo's fight. She thought that she didn't know who Yun Seo really was. He agreed to this sortie without expecting any reward for it, and yet he put a lot of effort into it. At such a young age, he had already surpassed many martial artists. Tang thought that maybe he would be the hero who would change the Murim forever. All the kidnapped girls thanked Yun Seo and Tan for what they did for them. Tan also thanked Yun Seo for agreeing to help her. Yun Seo responded that they had to do it. At this time in the city of Samso, some people were discussing the recent news. The man was sharing that this time Yun Seo Tang defeated the bandit Meng and rescued the kidnapped women. Yun Seo and Tan were in this place at the time and heard everything. They discussed that the girl was the daughter of the leader of the Tan clan. The men were amazed at how they had managed to kill a gang of 50 people together. They even distributed the things they had taken during the assault to the women. Zhang was amused by this and began to joke that Yun Seo and Tan were real heroes and local stars. The girl also added that it was mainly the merit of her sister Tan. Chan asked why they decided to distribute the obtained trophies without any conditions. Yun Seo knew that because of his investment in spices and incense, these trophies were just a drop in the ocean now. The boy knew that it was better to do a good deed, as Tan wanted. After all, if he convinced her that such things were not important to him, and that he was ready to do good deeds, then next time, she would definitely listen to him. To put it simply, for Yun Seo, this is just a foundation stone for an attack on the demonic sect. The guy knew that fame never comes for free, and he only killed the bandits for his own benefit. But the rumor had already spread and was overgrown with fables. In order to become the head of the Murim, in addition to combat skills, you need an impeccable reputation. In his past life, Yun Seo would have preferred his name to be feared. But in this life, he will gradually build a good reputation. If Yun Seo reveals his identity after achieving his goals, those who yearn for the appearance of that righteous knight will make him their hero. Yun Seo thought that this battle was useless, but he learned something from this situation. Suddenly, John told Yun Seo that they had a problem. The guy didn't expect it and asked what the problem was. The girl said that a robber from a demonic sect had recently appeared in these parts. Yesterday, he killed a disciple of the Vulcan sect. Yun Seo didn't understand and asked what they had to do with it. Chan explained that the Volcano sect was angry and decided to cordon off the entire island, so they wouldn't be able to leave until this bandit was caught. Chan said that she would go look for some connections on the streets, and she and Tan would return to the guest house. Yun Seo didn't like the idea of another headache, although he thought that there was no particular need to hurry. But he still didn't want to waste precious time. And Yun Seo didn't want to be the one to catch the criminal. He even thought about killing him instead of arresting him, but if the criminal lost to him, the man with no name. That's how the Volcano sect will think that Yun Seo is trying to say that they don't have enough power. It's the same as beating a beehive. Yun Seo decided to just check everything there, and then come what may. Suddenly, one of the warriors asked Yun Seo to stop. The warrior asked the boy if he was trying to avoid being searched. Yun Seo said he didn't understand what was going on. The warrior replied that it seemed that Yun Seo was trying to escape from him when he saw him coming. Yun Seo explained that there had been a misunderstanding and there was no point in disturbing all the passersby. The warrior said that the bandit from the demonic sect who killed the student was able to escape because he had the skills of disguise and transformation. The warrior asked the guy's name. Yun Seo replied to the warrior that didn't he know that well-mannered people first say their name before asking a stranger's name. The warrior told him to cooperate with them better, otherwise they would be forced to speak badly. Yun Seo hates these cheap threats and aggressive moves, but he doesn't want to conflict with the guy from a volcanic sect on his own territory. So he said his name. The warrior said that it seemed like the guy was not local and asked if he had any documents with him. Yun Seo replied that his friends at a guest house nearby could confirm his identity. The warrior agreed. They came to Tan. The warrior asked the girl her name first, so that she could confirm Yun Seo's identity. The girl introduced herself and said that she was the daughter of the leader of the Tang clan. The warrior introduced himself in response and said that he was a disciple of the Vulcan sect. Yun Seo couldn't understand why the warrior simply started talking to her without even asking permission. The warrior said that if Yun Seo had told them where they were from in the beginning, he would never have caused them any inconvenience. The guy got angry that the warrior's hand was on his shoulder. Suddenly, Chan came up and wondered what they were all doing there. The warrior was surprised and asked who she was. He introduced himself to Chong and said that he was a disciple of the Vulcan sect. Zhang took Yun Seo and said that they had some unfinished business and it was time for them to go. Zhang told Yun Seo to ignore him since he was always like that. Yun Seo was surprised how Zhang knew him. Zhang replied that she probably knew. Yun Seo replied that even so, his behavior seemed completely inappropriate. Chan revealed that he was one of the 10,000 warriors and the only disciple of the Plum Blossom Blade Master. The Plum Blossom Blade Master, he is the one who represents the volcanic sect among the heavenly emperors. He is called the Wild Sword Spirit and the Noble Blade. So Yun Seo knew it was important to know what was behind this man. As the head of the Murim, Yun Seo will gain power, and then he will destroy such impudent sectarians as him. Zhang brought Yun Seo and said that they were already there. The guy did not understand what kind of place it was and why they were there. The girl said that she brought Yun Seo to the black market, thinking that Yun Seo also wanted to buy something for herself. Black markets exist all over the world, selling stolen treasures and illegal goods. Yun Seo knew about such places only by hearsay. He himself had never been to such places. The girl gave the guy a fox mask and said that if he didn't want to show his face on the black market, he better wear this. Yun Seo became curious about what they were selling there. On the way back from the market, Yun Seo asked Zhang to tell him when a market would open again. The girl was surprised that he wanted to come again because he only bought the elixir. Yun Seo said that such elixirs are made only on Mount Medan. Yun Seo said that of course his powers wouldn't increase if he took it, but at a critical moment it could save his life. Chan asked if 20 zlotys for an elixir wasn't expensive. Even a merchant was surprised when the guy offered so much. Yun Seo explained that he didn't want to waste time on bargaining, and 20 zlotys wasn't that much for him. Zhang replied that if she had known, she would have bought some too. Yun Seo laughed and said that he could sell her a couple of his for a pretty reasonable price. Then Yun Seo noticed the guy pestering Tan. The guy was yelling that the funny girl was trying to inflate her value with such an ugly face. Tan asked him if he could answer for his words. Yun Seo didn't understand why everyone decided to cross the daughter of the head of the Tang clan. The man said that Tan was crazy to say such a thing to the head of the Chung Soul Squad. Then the man was seized by the body. He realized it was poison. Tan said that he had to answer her question. Chung approached Tan and asked the man if he had decided to molest a member of the Tan clan without being prepared to be poisoned. The man began to apologize and say that he knew nothing, begging for mercy and an antidote. Yun Seo saw that, judging by the way he was resisting the poison, he was a pretty healthy guy. The guy thought that apparently in their squad, they were training to resist poison. At that time, the man said that he got drunk and lost his mind. Yun Seo asked Tan if he could take over the matter. The girl replied that it was because of her and she could not remain in his debt again. Yun Seo said that he had an idea and could Tan please give in to him this time if it wasn't too much trouble. The girl agreed and said that he could do it. Yun Seo thanked the girl for such a gesture. Yun Seo approached the man and said that if he wanted to live, he needed to fulfill his request, and he would receive the antidote. The man agreed. He actually thought that he would never forgive them for this and would kill them all. Yun Seo said that he would come to him at night and give him instructions. The man thought that this would probably be a strange request. At this time, the man's servant asked if, after such treatment of the girl from the Tang clan, they were not now in danger. The man decided that they would ambush Yun Seo and attack him, because the guy didn't even know who he was dealing with. The leader ordered to gather all the soldiers and hurry. He decided that this way he would remove the problems with this sucker and the girl from the Tang clan. Suddenly, a flying body knocked down the door of the room. Yun Seo came in after him and asked why he hadn't warned his men that Yun Seo would come at night. After all, people suffered for no reason. Yun Seo asked why the chief had grabbed an axe, probably not to chop down a couple of trees in the middle of the night. The leader replied that it was nothing special and asked what Yun Seo was asking for. The guy replied that it was nothing unusual. It is simply necessary to find the criminal who is currently being sought by the Vulcan sect. The guy also doesn't care how the boss will do it, through connections or with the help of soldiers, but at all costs, he needs to be found. The man replied that the volcanic sect would soon catch him. Yun Seo said that he was not asking to catch him, but simply to find out where he was. Yun Seo knew that if he found out where the criminal was and passed it on to the cult, the city would be open again. A perfect ploy to atone for his debt to the volcanic sect. Yun Seo told the leader not to worry, as Yun Seo would report to the sect the location of the criminal. The guy reminded that the leader must find out faster than the volcanic sect does, otherwise he will die. The leader was confused and did not understand how he could do this faster than the volcanic sect. However, looking at the body lying nearby, he decided that he needed to act faster. After some time, the man came to Yun Seo and said that he had found the criminal. Yun Seo realized that the warriors of their squad didn't know how to find the right person. Yun Seo thanked the chief and said he could go. While these Taoists were trying to catch the criminal, he decided to take a look at the show. Yun Seo arrived at the scene and saw that it had already begun. He was surprised that they were using the plum blossom formation. The boy realized that this seemed to be the signature attack of the volcanic sect. Even though this Taoist sect only had warriors at the first zenith level, this attack allows them to defeat warriors of a higher level. When he is trapped, his own demonic energy drives him mad and destroys him from the inside. However, this time, things didn't go according to plan. The demon had incredible speed and managed to escape. Yun Seo thought, what idiots. These Taoists managed to let the criminal escape. If he managed to escape, his plan would go down the drain. Yun Seo knew that if he left a mark of his sword on the criminal's body, his identity could be revealed. To avoid being caught by the volcanic sect, Yun Seo will have to fight with her bare hands. Yun Seo noticed that the demon had an innate rarity, the talent to concentrate internal energy. The demon began to attack Yun Seo. There was nowhere to go, so Yun Seo began to fight him. Because of its innate rarity, it was difficult to fight it without killing it. Yun Seo knew that at this rate, the volcanic sect would soon show up. Yun Seo decided to try an internal strike using chi energy, and it worked. The boy decided to leave it to the local martial arts masters. Suddenly, someone called Yun Seo and said that he wanted to talk. Yun Seo hadn't even noticed any presence during this entire time. He noticed the plum mark of the volcanic sect on the stranger. Yun Seo knew that only one person could remain undetected and wear this mark, the Plum Blossom Blade Master. Yun Seo said that he was glad to meet the master of the Plum Blossom Blade. The master replied that he probably already knew him. Yun Seo didn't understand what he was doing here and said that how could he not know about the first blade of the Vulcan sect. The master said that the sect's adepts would take care of the criminal, and they needed to talk in some quiet place. They moved, and the master asked why Yun Seo tried to escape after he knocked out the criminal. He added that, judging by the fact that Yun Seo is wearing a mask, he wanted to keep his identity a secret from the very beginning. Yun Seo replied that he was afraid that he might get into trouble with the volcanic sect after he caught the criminal. The master was not surprised, since the sect was trying to show off its ferocity. The master said that the sect was now indebted to Yun Seo. He added that his disciple should have trusted the boy and not caused trouble. Yun Seo remembered that the idiot who had accosted him on the street was a disciple of the Plum Blossom Blade Master. The master asked if Yun Seo wanted any kind of reward. Yun Seo replied that he simply wanted to help, in the hopes of lifting the cordon of the city sooner, and he had no other motives. The master was surprised and said that Yun Seo was not greedy at all. Yun Seo replied that of course he wanted to be paid for his exploits, but in such a situation it was very stupid to demand a reward. Master said that Yun Seo must have a lot of courage to say such things in front of him. Yun Seo replied that there was no need to be afraid of elders whom he respected. The master started laughing and said that he liked Yun Seo more and more, and he asked the guy that he hadn't come here alone. Yun Seo said that he came with the daughter of the leader of the Tang clan. The master was surprised and realized that Yun Seo was the accompanying guy. Yun Seo asked if the master knew him. The master said that he had heard that his disciple had met a girl from the Tang clan and two strangers, and he was interested. But first, the master said that he did not understand why nothing was known about Yun Seo, although he had all the abilities to defeat the criminal alone. Yun Seo replied that it was because he was a student at the Heavenly Dragon School, and that he had only recently set foot on his own path in the Murim, so nothing was known about him. The master said that this was the first time he heard about this school, and it might be one of the hidden schools in Murim. He also added that, judging by Yun Seo's pure and rich energy, he had a lot of experience behind him. The master said that he understood everything and immediately asked if Yun Seo could take his student with him. This angered Yun Seo. He did not understand why the master said such nonsense and hoped that he imagined it. The master explained that after spending his entire life in the mountains, listening to the words of the teacher, he had learned to turn up his nose and shirk work. The master wanted him to realize his shortcomings on this journey. Yun Seo thought he was crazy and didn't understand why he had to raise this brat. He decided that even if the master hated him for it, he wouldn't take his student with him. Yun Seo said no and asked why he was even asking him to do that. The master replied that Yun Seo's character was not subject to influence. The master also added that Yun Seo's intentions were clear enough for the daughter of the Tang clan leader to go with him, and that he had enough experience to take over the leadership of his student as well. Yun Seo replied that they would get along with his student in character, and he was sure that it could come to blows. The master replied that it was good, on the contrary, since the whip calms the mind best of all, and if his peer defeats him, it will surely bring him down to earth. Then Yun Seo asked the master if he would mind if he fought his student with all his strength. The master replied that of course he was asking Yun Seo to do this not for nothing, but for a special reward. The master took out a small tablet, and Yun Seo realized that it was a token of gratitude from the master of the Plum Blossom Blade. Every clan has such signs, and they mean that the clan is indebted to the warrior. Such a sign cannot be obtained even for 1,000 gold coins. Yun Seo asked the master if he was really willing to give him this token. The master replied that although he was a master of the blade, he could not reward him with much, since he did not have enough power and money. In the end, Yun Seo agreed. The next day, the master's disciple was already telling the girls that he was very happy to join them and that they should take care of him. Not even an hour had passed, and this Taoist had already gotten on Yun Seo's nerves. But he didn't hate him because, thanks to him, the Plum Blossom Blade Master was now in Yun Seo's debt. And now Yun Seo just needs to look after this loser. Suddenly, a student came and told Yun Seo that the carriage was too small and could Yun Seo ride on a horse. Yun Seo didn't pay attention and went to the carriage. The Taoist asked him to stop. Didn't he hear about the request? Yun Seo asked him if he had paid a penny for the cart. The Taoist did not understand what he was talking about. Yun Seo explained that the cart cost money. Yun Seo also added that in that case, wouldn't it be fair for the Taoist to ride on horseback? He closed the carriage door and wished them a safe journey. The journey was long, and Zhang asked Yun So if the sect would take revenge on them for such treatment of her follower. Yun So knew that this Taoist was one of the most outstanding warriors before he became the ward of the Plum Blossom Blade Master. And if he crosses the volcanic sect now, they will prevent him from becoming the head of the Murim later. So the guy said that Chan was right, and they need to come up with a good excuse. After a long journey, they decided to spend the night by the fire. The Taoists told the same stories about the teacher over and over again. The Taoists said that he was, after all, the first sword of the volcanic sect, the master of the Plum Blossom Blade. Chong told him that he must be a fine warrior too. The boy replied that it was nice to hear, but he had many shortcomings. Although everyone said that he was the future of the sect, Yun So was watching all this from the side and said how pathetic he was. The Taoist heard this and asked Yun So what he just said. Yun So replied that he was simply remembering the wild dogs they had encountered in the forest recently. The Taoist asked what kind of dogs they were. Yun So replied that several dogs had surrounded their prey, but one dog rushed forward and chased the prey. However, the prey was more cunning and ran away to its hole. Yun So asked the Taoist if the dog hadn't acted stupidly. The Taoist replied that perhaps she had her reasons. Yun So replied that since they were dogs, they were simply left without food, but imagine that something similar happened to Murim. One wrong decision, and the crazy killer could escape. Innocent people could get hurt. The Taoist replied that only foolish people talk about what could have been but did not happen. Then Yun So asked if he hadn't really missed it. The Taoist got angry, jumped up, and asked Yun So what he was trying to say. Yun So replied that he was just talking about dogs. There was no need to react so impulsively and take it to heart. It was late night, and everyone had gone to bed. Suddenly, Yun So was woken up by the Taoist and told that he wanted to talk in private. Yun So said that he could talk. Then the Taoist suggested that they walk to another place and talk there. Yun So agreed, but did not understand why he had to go so far. The Taoist asked Yun So why he was doing this. The guy replied that he simply did not like him. The Taoist began to laugh and said that he didn't think Yun So could make him laugh, but the joke was not bad. Yun So replied that it might have seemed like a joke, but he was sincere. The Taoist replied that he didn't know what he was talking about. Then Yun So told him that they were connected much more strongly than he could imagine. The Taoist replied that Yun So probably thought he was riding on Lady Tang's neck. Yun So replied that he was too hasty in judging people. Yun So knew that he had not encountered such people for a long time. The Taoist had dropped all his manners as soon as they were alone. Then Yun So asked him if he had brought him to this forest just to complain. And if so, he ordered him to return to the sect, talk to the teacher, and ask what all this was about. The Taoist turned around and said that there was no point in talking about serious things with frivolous people. And suddenly he went on the attack. Yun So asked Taoist if he really wanted to end the argument with a fight. Taoist asked Yun So if he was scared. Taoist replied that he just didn't want to play games with him. Yun So turned around and started to leave, saying that if he had nothing more to add, he wouldn't waste his time. Yun So knew that this should be enough to piss him off, and he knew that the Taoist would come after him. The Taoist became very angry and started shouting that how dare Yun So just run away. That's it, Yun So thought. Yun So said that a warrior like Taoist couldn't control his emotions. Taoist replied that if he was a worthy warrior, he should stop talking and take out his sword. Yun So said that he tried to prevent this fight until the end, but the Taoist himself started it all. Yun So immediately warned Taoist that everything that would happen from this moment onwards on his part would simply be self-defense.